Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 433.
Is it 433?
I don't know. I think that's what I put on a thumbnail, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. I was wrong one other time.
You were wrong once. I have 433 in my list, so I think we're
somewhere it checks out. I'm Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, joined alongside Johnny V, back-to-back weeks here in studio for me. I feel like I need to leave again.
How about next week? You're going to be here next week? It's pretty close to Christmas. I can't imagine you're anywhere else.
There's places I could be, but I will probably be here next week. One place I was recused from today, jury duty.
Oh. No, did you just walk in with the guilty shirt?
I might be ugly, but he's guilty is what I had on the shirt.
Yeah.
No. It was a little bit more for the after show, but yeah, not too much craziness or chaos for me in the Waukesha County Courthouse. And unfortunately, that is also the same place where we just had the Darrell Brooks ordeal had gone down with his wild and crazy, which I managed to watch exactly 0 minutes and 0 seconds of, but I know that it was gripping part of quite a bit of the country with that jerk a-hole piece of whatever that had driven through the Waukesha parade just a little over a year ago, and this was the same exact location where that had just taken place. But
lucky you.
When it was all said and done, I ultimately my services were not needed. And that means I will be eligible in the pool again, the jury pool, in 4 years.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. So, but I did make $22. So
listen,
there's that. I think it's up from the $6.
You're a hustler. Let me just say that.
Yes.
Terry actually goes city to city to hit jury duties just to make a few extra bucks.
That's how that works. That's exactly what I was doing. All right. So again, welcome in. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about the clearly one of the largest conversation pieces that's been taking place is the new PDGA and Disc Golf Pro Tour policy regarding transgender participation. There's been some updates and some policies that are going to be taking place and actually implemented in just the next couple of weeks as of January 1st. I feel like that has obviously dominated the airwaves since basically, well, I'm going to say like 29-ish hours. It was about 5 o'clock yesterday when this first hit, and then clearly it has been all the conversation for the most part. I personally am not looking to beat any portion of it to death. I know there's been very heated debates and a lot of conversation that's already taken place. I would like to have a conversation about it, but it's at the same time, and as much as I don't feel that I'm oppressed in any capacity, it's still exhausting, and I am all but a bystander to it, and it is very exhausting, and yeah, it's very delicate as well. So we will be having a conversation about that here in just a few moments. And then also we're going to have Nova Politte. She's going to be joining us. She's got some insight and some thoughts on the subject matter for sure, as it will definitely directly impact her and how she's going to move forward with her competitive disc golf for this year and beyond. So it'll be great to have a personal one-on-one perspective from someone that this is affecting quite a bit.
I do want to say we did reach out to the PDGA, but currently the PDGA is only taking written requests. So that's kind of their policy at this point. I think they want to make sure that they have kind of all their ducks in a row, that they don't want to say anything out of maybe out of what the current statement is so quickly. I think there's a lot to be. I don't want to say a lot. There are still a few small things that I think they need to suss out just to make sure that they have everything. So the invitation was out there, but I believe I talked with Charlie from Alta World, and they got the same response as well, basically saying the PDGA would prefer questions in a writing format right now.
Yeah, and then to follow that up, also what was said is that not only would they like them in a written form that then can be submitted, that as of right now, everything that is with regard to their policy is what's been released. So that there's no further development, there's no additional information, that everything that is essentially available and out right now is exactly what has been put on the website. So that's kind of their response. And I'll just go ahead and say, from a PDGA perspective, and then from a PDGA membership perspective, me signing up in the mid '90s, this clearly, well, I feel like, is the biggest policy and or decision within the PDGA since we've been members.
I was going to say within the last decade. But
I'll challenge and say, what would you say has been bigger than this conversation?
You could argue as far as entire membership, maybe the dropping of the national tour and handing that over to the pro tour. That is a big decision. But this is more. I hate to use the word political, but this has a bigger feeling to, I think, a lot of people, and we're going to hear about that.
Yeah, I do think from an overall standpoint and perspective of significance of what we've seen, and Johnny V and I have been PDGA members, like we said, since the mid to late '90s. Every single year, regardless of of our player capabilities.
25 years almost, Harry.
Yeah, it's been more than 25 years for me already, which is definitely kind of crazy to think about it that way. So yeah, it's certainly very impactful and has a lot of implications, either outwardly, inwardly, or some that are more obvious than others. There's no doubt about that. And if you're into that sort of thing, I was also told that the PDGA had released some ratings today. So if you're into your ratings, go check them out.
We can talk about this a little bit later because I feel like we're maybe getting off track. But Manabu, the highest rated player in the world right now at 1051.
I know, and then immediately someone might say, "Well, that feels kind of weird, doesn't it?" Because we didn't really see him.
I know.
We didn't, I know is part of the international challenge to when you have world rankings, when you have the Smashbox rankings and the Ultra World and the everybody's got a.
We will circle back around to that because we have our guest waiting for us. Nova is in the Disc Baron Digital Green Room right now. Should we bring her on, Terry?
I'm good. Let's do it.
And without any further ado, Nova Politte. Hey, Nova. I got your name right.
You did, Nova Politte. Like, whoop, whoop, that's the sound of the Politte.
That's the sound of the Politte, exactly. And you have to be our age to understand that, so...
I'm afraid so.
Well, welcome in. Obviously, there's been a lot of a very sensitive and insensitive conversation that's been taking place for quite some time, and, yesterday is... maybe or maybe not the first time that you heard of the PDGA, the new PDGA policy, and then also backed up or followed by the Disc Golf Pro Tours policy. I guess right off the bat, without even just dancing around it, like, what are your reactions and what does this mean to you?
Oh, my reaction is that today has been one hell of a long week.
Okay, understandable. Now, in all fairness, this is not the first conversation publicly that you've been having. You said you were on other podcasts or other outlets today, even.
Yeah, I've been talking to. Oh God, I don't know. It's been so long since this morning. Let's see. I talked to Ultiworld for a written article that should be up literally any moment now. Mm. And actually, I've got another podcast coming up tomorrow, David Fournier's 19th hole. Go check that out, plug. But as far as getting back to your first question, what does this mean? Well, it means here about, about 30 hours on, my thoughts are still a raging hurricane. I have so many ideas going on, and they all conflict, and they're all very important, and most of them are right. And that makes for a very frustrating time, and I'm just trying to sort through it and not make any terrible mistakes by shooting from the hip. But here I am, so I'm going to shoot from the hip tonight a little bit.
That's how we do it here on Smashbox. You've been a part of the chat board, and you've watched how we do this. We've said some dumb things live on the air. Mostly Terry, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. But yes, that's and you drinks in us. And,
but right,
yeah,
right off the bat, wait, are these family friendly drinks? Is this a kids channel?
Whatever mixes.
No,
anything.
Okay,
that mixes.
Okay, good. I approve. I'm having family friendly stuff right now, though. Anyway, so I'm G-rated. Where was I? I'll drop an F-bomb later. Wait, are you monetized? Can I drop an
That's
F-bomb?
all right.
It doesn't matter.
None
Okay.
of it matters.
None of it matters.
Free speech, man. Whatever.
Sorry, you
Free-
say whatever
free
we
can't
want.
speech.
Elon Musk
I'm
me
in.
or something. I don't know.
No, don't Elon Musk anybody. That's never good. No, nobody wants that. Where was I? Okay, so as far as like getting back to like immediate impact, it's like the most obvious thing is, well, because of the way the rules are written in 2023, I am not going to any DGPTs because they won't have me. I've been locked out. I've been playing in DGPTs, not on tour, but just, 3 to 5 a year as the traveling circus sort of comes through my part of the country. I hop on for a couple stops, and then as it fades off into the horizon, I hop back off and go home again. And no more. Can't be done. So that's a door that has been closed in my face. And it's very dispiriting because legit, these were my favorite events of the year. The production quality, I mean, I'm going to talk real good about the people who hurt me. The DGPT puts on one hell of a show, both in terms of production for the fans at home and in terms of the quality of the experience for the players there on the ground. There's nothing else like it, and I don't get to play, and I'm just sick about it. And I'm just smiling because I'm happy to be on with you right now. Inside's a different face. And there's another tournament coming up I'd like to talk about, but I want to give you guys a talk break first.
Well, here's what I want to say, and just in case there's any confusion out there,
yeah,
a very long post has been made, or an update has been made to the PDGA. If there's somehow somebody's confused about where we're going, what we're talking about, if you go out to pdga.com, it's right there on the front page. And then I scroll down specifically, I'm going to scroll down to the eligibility update, and that's essentially what you're talking about. And of course, there's a lot of points to this. There's additional graphs, charts, background story. There's all of that, and it is a lot to consume, but if you want to know more about it, it is all out there and available. But I'm going to read a few of the parts that are in bold, because not only are they in bold, but that's obviously what just I think a lot of people will gravitate to, and they are, in fact, those highlights. And it says, major points of the policy governing the participation of transgender women in gender-based divisions are listed below. And then it goes on to say, for PDGA amateur majors, pro master majors, and all other PDGA events sanctioned at A tier level and below, the requirements regarding a player's level of testosterone have been lowered from 10 nanomoles per liter for 1 year to under 2 nanomoles per liter for 2 years. And then the second main point to that is players are only eligible to compete in gender-based FPO divisions at PDGA Pro Majors, the Champions Cup, U.S. Women's, European Open, and Pro Worlds, if they began medical transition during Tanner Stage 2 or before age 12, whichever is later. The player must also continuously maintain a total testosterone level serum below 2.0 nanomoles per liter. And then it goes on to say that any organizations that are specifically designated by the PDGA under the terms of an explicit agreement to run Elite Series may set or use any subset of the eligibility criteria above at their events. Application of the chosen criteria must comport with the terms of their agreement within the PDGA. And essentially, right now, the only people that check that box is the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And immediately after this was released, well, within 15, 20, 30 minutes, the Pro Tour said, hey, we're going to fall in line with exactly what the PDGA has issued. And that just kind of brings us up fully to speed in case somebody didn't know where we at.
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to point out that there might be one person on the planet Earth who transitioned prior to the age of 12. And I don't think she's a disc golfer. I mean, the odds are very slim. And given the state of legislation in this country where the early, and not even transition, just the early forestalling of an adverse puberty is being criminalized. Such a bill was proposed in my home state yesterday. It's a catch-22. The law says, no, kids, you don't get to be trans. And then the sport says, no, you had to be a trans kid to play.
This is I'm going to ask you a personal question. You don't have to answer this.
Ask all the questions you want.
Nanimals. Do you know yours?
Nope, sure don't. I'll tell you what, though. I'm pretty sure they are very close to zero because my sources of testosterone became a puff in the ozone from a medical waste incinerator about 19 years ago.
Okay. And obviously, these are sensitive questions because these are personal questions for anybody. But
I'm an open book.
For you, yes. I mean, but we have people who maybe that's not the case for. Who maybe don't.
Absolutely.
Who don't want to share this information, and I don't necessarily. I mean, I don't know the right. I don't know if we should be asking these, or how we should be asking these, or how, in general, how it's going to be figured out, or or whatnot. Do you know if a majority of our players would qualify for that, or do you not have any idea what everyone?
No idea. Don't ask around. And honestly, given the state of healthcare in the United States, and given the fact that transgender people are an underserved minority when it comes to access to healthcare in the United States, which is again a double whammy, access to that kind of blood monitoring is expensive. It's often not covered by insurance. It's a specific sort of lab write-up that you have to ask for, and the level of monitoring that the PDGA is asking for is a very expensive intrusion. And you're burdening an already overburdened, underemployed, discriminated against minority, saying, oh yeah, also, monitor your blood for the next 24 months and keep us up to date on it. But only the transgender women, not all the women. It doesn't pass the does this feel terrible test.
Now, one of the questions that I think a lot of people continue to talk about is, you kind of just referenced it, the testing that will be done and or eligibility and verification.
That's an important thing.
Yeah, and there's a point right on, and I have to find it exactly, but there is a point that's listed that says it's eligibility verification. E-E.3 says eligibility verification procedures that require documentation from all participants will be implemented for all PDGA majors.
And interestingly, and there's I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm going to. If you cross-reference to the DGPT's tour standards for 2023, I don't know if you've read them yet. It mentions that now cancel me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember reading that prohibited substance testing is indicated as being on the radar for 2024. And then there was a clause which I didn't understand when I read this a couple of weeks ago that said, and other types of monitoring may be implemented in 2023. And I'm starting to think the other type of monitoring that may be implemented in 2023 may be that from the 2023 tour standard for the DGPT. The document's online at dgpt.com under players. Go check it out. Maybe some of the chatties can fact check me in real time here. But this leads me to think that there was some level of coordination ahead of time.
I would have to guess that there was some talking. I mean, at least for the pro half of the discussion, there had to be some communication. Whether the DGPT, I mean, ultimately the DGPT doesn't care about the amateur or master fields. We know that, right? No one cares about masters, right? I mean, we've said it a dozen times.
Oh no, Callie riled up last week.
I know. We had Callie on last week, and I love Callie. And
nobody gives a shit about masters.
We're all masters here. But
if anybody gave a shit about masters, they would have kicked me out too.
But ultimately, DGPT doesn't care.
They
about
didn't.
That. So I don't necessarily know on that side, but you have to assume there's some sort of chat between some people at the DGPT to get at least some input, whether it was before or after the medical committee or what. It would only make sense.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I was going to say, to add on to that, it makes sense. The Disc Golf Pro Tour is the official tour of the PDGA, or the official professional tour of the PDGA, however it's worded. You know what I mean. So it would make sense that they're having a conversation as to what the policies and procedures are going to look like, and ultimately having being on the same page, having some.
And I made the post on Twitter. I'm not about to shy away from it, that I personally am extremely disappointed in the DGPT decision. I know this is a bigger discussion than just the DGPT, but based on what the PDGA wrote, it sounds like the DGPT had two decisions to decide between, and they chose.
I want to hone in on that.
Yeah, they chose the more restrictive one, and I don't know for sure why. I would assume it's some sort of cohesive tour with all the majors that the PDGA decided upon, because if you have two different rule sets where suddenly you have touring players that maybe, like, we'll say Natalie, because she is the prime example, who can play elite events but can't play majors, that affects points, and that becomes a mess, and that maybe puts some liability on the DGPT legally. I don't know all the behind the scenes and how that would work, but me personally, I'm disappointed that the DGPT maybe didn't take a different stance.
Absolutely.
And that's a personal opinion.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know that I understand that, because for some of the reasons what you just said, in that it likely would have created more chaos and more confusion and maybe even more animosity if they weren't congruent.
Sure.
But
that's a possibility. But me personally, again, personal opinion, I would have rather seen the DGPT take a step more towards inclusion than not, because it's ultimately their decision for their tour. The PDGA said so. So that's just, and Nova, you were saying.
Yeah, and the other thing is, because how the DGPT runs the DGPT's business is their business, and because the PDGA even gave them that discretion in the gender protected policy, their hands were free to do as they wished, free of repercussion. And by setting things up the way they have, they've become, a de facto no trans league. And this puts them on the same level as the Southern Nationals. And I think they're killing it down there. So not a good look, DGPT. This is the company you're keeping. Because in the PDGA, as weird and structured and hierarchical as their decision was to say, FPO majors, no, age-protected majors and A tiers and below, yes. It's the PDGA has this sort of relief valve. They have this sort of, well, we're going to discriminate against you some, but you've got this other area you can have fun in. And the DGPT, it's, the gate is just barred. It's just, no, get out of here.
We saw the survey. We saw the results from we saw the medical committee. Then we saw the survey that everybody was offered. And there was about 30,000 or some 35,000 respondents to that.
More than.
And our board of directors got like 11 or 14,000 respondents, something along those lines, 20, maybe at max 20. I don't think it was that much.
I think it was like 10 or 11.
So clearly this stirred something. I mean, we know from general political elections, the presidential election always gets more thing because it seems to be the bigger thing. So this actually drew people to fill out a survey, which they couldn't be bothered to do for a board of directors. Nova, what do you take from the results of the survey that more or less say let's just go out and assume that the numbers are relatively accurate and say that 80% of the FPO DGPT division felt that that they did not want trans athletes in their division. Do you think that matters? Do you think the DGPT needs to look at that? I mean, how do you look at that and make that connection?
Okay. Granting, for the sake of argument, that the survey isn't hot garbage.
Yep.
And I'm going to grant that for the sake of argument temporarily. And working with those numbers as the hot garbage is presented us, how do I feel about that? The vast majority of people not caring if I live or die has been the background radiation of my life for the last 23 years. And being told again that people don't like me because of who I am, it's not news. There are days I get up and I continue to take one breath after another just to spite them, because every breath I take without their permission is a victory. So, yeah. But here's the weird part. Survey says 80% on the board. However, that's not been my on-the-ground experience. I don't know if the survey is whack. I don't know if people are two-faced. I don't know if I'm scary because I'm 6'4", even though I couldn't bench press anything. My experience in person at all levels has been uniformly neutral or positive. I mean, obviously, if you walk up to somebody and you say hi and they're kind of icy, neutral, whatever, that might not be you. That might be them. You don't know what kind of day they're having. You're not a mind reader. So you just got to say, no, that's a them problem. That's not a me problem. But nobody has ever walked up to me or insinuated or entendred or directly said to me at an event at any level, at any point since the first day I started playing disc golf, you should not be here. Never, never once. It's either people are just off in their own world, or they're icy for whatever reason, or they are warm and they are glad I'm here. I have been told so many times in these last 8 years, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to see you. Hey, how's it going? Looking forward to playing disc golf. I have made more and better friends in the last 8 years than I have in the rest of my life combined, adult and childhood. Disc golf has been, to use a word I'm loath, a blessing, even though blessings aren't real. And so that 80% number strikes me as weirdly incongruous, because what that 80% number is saying is all of these people being so nice to me has been some kind of weird Truman Show lie.
Do you think,
Hanlon's razor says no.
Do you think there's a difference, though, in, I'll push back a little bit on that, of how people feel about you versus how they feel about the competition? Because
they can beat me.
But you versus Natalie versus Chloe versus any of the more front-facing of our athletes, wonderful people. But do you feel that someone can look at that and love you, but not say, yeah, but they have an advantage for whatever reason? I mean, do you think that
obviously, well, obviously, yes. Human brains are a bag of cats. It's not just Loki from that one movie. We are all bags of cats inside our brains. Each of our minds contains a multitude of centers of thought and ideas, and they're fighting. Some of them get along, but a lot of them fight. And humans have no problem whatsoever holding discriminatory attitudes towards a group of people and liking one of those people. And, what we think of as good people, introspect and examine their attitudes and come to realize that maybe the credit they're extending to the one, they should extend to the all. And other people don't. And I'm not saying better. I'm not saying worse. I'm just saying different. Because our brains are complicated and hard to understand, and they don't come with an owner's manual. So yeah, I absolutely believe someone could be absolutely charming to my face and then say things that are utterly discriminatory about me on social media, not naming names. But yes, I know, yeah, it's happened. And I'm still kind and polite to them when I meet them, because they're kind and polite to me when they meet me. And so I'm kind of guilty of that level of compartmentalization too. So I understand exactly what you're saying. We're all complicated. It's not just a matter of, people's beliefs and their behaviors don't line up perfectly. And we'd be a lot less interesting if they did.
When the policy, for instance, talks about essentially the two different policies in terms of amateur versus professionals, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to other competitors that maybe are eligible for some of those amateur divisions? I know there's plenty of amateur-based divisions that you're not eligible for. What do you feel like that means to, whether it's for the sake of inclusion or for the sake of the sport or for the sake of even continuity or consistency? Does that throw more of a wrench in it, or is that still considered something that you feel is advantageous, that the policy's a little less stringent or considerably less stringent on the amateur side?
I think
is it a compromise
that this is
too?
going to, yeah, it is a compromise, but I think it's a compromise that's going to create chaos. If I can abuse an ancient metaphor, I think, well, first off, we know that if you are permissive towards people who act in an antisocial way, it encourages that behavior. Permissiveness causes misbehavior, and I feel like you combine that with the concept of you let the camel stick its nose in the tent, a minute later you got a whole camel in your tent. I feel like this could potentially embolden people to be unkind in person where they might not have before, because the PDGA over the summer of 2022 did publish a statement and then a reminder that, discrimination or acting in an unkind way to anybody, although, it was really about trans people, at an event, is a disciplinary matter. However, you look at what they say and then you look at what they do, and people who are inclined to be unkind look at what they say and then they look at what they do. And they say, on the one hand, they're saying don't act up at a tournament or at your league. But then this policy is on the ground that sort of others transgender people and sort of gets us like one step out the door. And I feel like that encourages them, maybe puts just a little bit more steel in their spine. And I am deeply concerned that at some point in the year 2023 or going forward, if this policy continues, I might have my first ugly incident at a tournament. I have had to rehearse preparatory behaviors that I don't think cisgender people have to worry about, or people who are not in a minority have to worry about. I have to think, is my phone handy and ready to video record what's happening at a moment's notice? If somebody comes up and just starts, talking smack or dropping slurs, will I have the evidence on video for the disciplinary board, or is it going to be a she said situation? Because if it's just she said, and the PDGA is acting the way they're acting, I don't have 100% confidence in the process. I think it might just come down to, well, we got a she said, we don't know what's going on, move on. And even though my day got wrecked, nothing happens. So I am, and again, that's just the background radiation of living while trans. And I feel like the radiation level got turned up just a little bit higher than 3.6 on the meter going into 2023. And I don't much care for it. It's unsettling.
I was going to follow that up. And of course, I mean, you know us, and it goes without saying that we don't condone any of those types of behaviors, or that you would in any way feel threatened. I mean, I think for you, that already is with.
Oh, you're good people. I wouldn't be here if you weren't.
So we appreciate that. But when you look at the survey, some of the survey results, and I know we can, for every single thing that's published, whether it's cited or published or whatever, we can always have pushback to those given things. But the survey results essentially showed that 8-1 in terms of against on the professional side, but it felt like it was a lot lower, almost like a 2-1 disagreement when it came to the amateur side. Why would you suppose that is? Do you feel like, well, I won't even postulate. why do you feel like that was so much less of a concern on the amateur side than it is on the professional side? And is that what then drove the policy?
I don't know. I could not even begin to speculate on that. I don't understand the rationale of people who would choose the disagree option on the survey. And I don't understand why there would be a difference between AMs and pros. It's literally not something I've thought about. You have caught me on my back foot.
Okay.
I listened to the Alta World podcast today, and I do, as much as I hate to promote our competitors, Charlie Eisenhood, I do recommend people go out and listen to it. They brought on an expert in this field, particularly, and she was very clear about a lot of things, that they're doing studies, that currently the studies that are out there don't necessarily represent athletes, that they're really, the studies look like they're focused on your average person, so to speak. But please go out and listen to everybody to that, and then, whatever. If something comes out of these studies that more or less says, we feel that transgender athletes have an advantage for whatever reason, shoulder width, arm length, whatever crap that the medical committee thing had in there, I don't know. But actual, if this study comes out and says whatever, how do you feel that affects you? Should we have, I think I know your answer, but does that?
Well, that's
does
an
that
interesting
change
hypothetical.
anything? That's exactly. It's a hypothetical, because I don't know what these studies are going to say.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, no, I can talk to that. This is something I've thought about and talked about in the past. And in your hypothetical situation, before we weigh in a hypothetical situation and discuss it, I think it's important to consider the possibility that it might be Garbo. A study which says roughly what you say, that just comes out and says, no, you're rocking the world, you're too much. It is so counter to my lived experience and what I feel living in my body, and it is so counter to what we have learned so far about the action of testosterone on the human body, the importance of maximum cardio in disc golf, strength. It is so counter to everything I know and understand so far that it would be a literal upending of much of what I know about reality. And it's difficult for me to seriously entertain that hypothetical because, it's like it'd be like asking me if the moon was made of green cheese tomorrow. It's not just a simple copy and paste of one thing in the universe changes. So much of what, in the case of the moon, what we understand about the formation of the solar system and the formation of astronomical bodies and gravity and the effects on cheese in a vacuum, everything we know about that would be wrong. And we'd be like, how did we get everything so wrong? And yet everything manages to form a cohesive whole and point towards one conclusion for so long. And then we have this random fact or this random study come along that literally kicks the pins out from under most of what we know. And your hypothetical, I think, is similar to that, in that if this one study comes along and purports to kick the pins out of everything we know and everything that I've experienced and other people have experienced so far, it would be an upending of so much. And I think it would be intriguing. And because in science, you publish your results and then other people go out and try to replicate them, we would go out and try to replicate them. And if it somehow turned out that people were able to replicate this research and we started making the connections to how this new study that seemed so crazy fits into reality as we understand it and actually starts accounting for things that already work, then I would in fact take it seriously. But I'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay.
because of, we talked about this leading in just before having you on, how big of a decision, how big of a policy this is, what this means for the present stage of disc golf pro tour, and the PDGA. When the PDGA releases this, it said that they used the following information to reach the conclusion that they did: the PDGA medical subcommittee report, results of the survey, a survey of transgender disc golfers, a statement from the Disc Golf Pro Tour, feedback from several cisgender and transgender women who are touring professionals, eligibility policies from different national governing bodies of other sports, and then other position papers, academic research, and additional studies on this topic. So my question would be, this clearly was a year and then some, and a lot of work by a lot of people put into this. Some would say, hey, all of these people did all of these things, and then there's how you feel.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you would be, how do you answer that when someone says, but we've done all of this work now. Here's what we found. Here's the policy that's made. Here's where the members have spoken the loudest, and here's where they find. And
a survey isn't bioscience. A survey isn't bioscience. A survey, the only science you can get from a survey is learning what people think. But what they think isn't necessarily true. You've learned what they think, but the truth value of their thoughts is an entirely different question. And honestly, I don't like the idea of putting the rights of a despised minority up to a democratic vote, because pure democracy is 3 wolves and 1 sheep voting for dinner. To draw an example to a similar civil rights struggle that occurred within the lifetimes of maybe you, John, and some of our older audience.
He's just as old as me, damn it, Nova.
I'm sorry. It's the beard. The beard keeps you young.
You're way older than me, and I love it.
He's like 6 months younger than me. Damn
I love it.
Oh my God.
No, that's fine.
This is why
that's fine. No.
Anyway, Loving versus Virginia, the decision which decriminalized interracial marriage in the late 60s in the United States. That decision was promulgated by the Supreme Court. It was a better time. At a time when the approval rate among the public for interracial marriage was in the high teens of percents. The animus, the hatred against, or the mistrust against interracial couples was remarkable. Go watch some Nick at Night and watch sitcoms and the comedy dramas from the late 60s, early 70s, and the interracial couple is always the lightning rod for trouble. And that was, the writers of the show at that time pointing out, we got trouble. Now, late 60s, I don't remember, 67, 68, 69, Loving versus Virginia is decided by the United States Supreme Court. What year do you think the approval rate for interracial marriage in public surveys first crept above the 50% mark in the United States?
I think I heard this. Wasn't it like the mid 80s? Wasn't it like 80?
Mid 80s.
83, 84 something?
83, 84. Yeah. So a decade and a half of time. And that means if you had put, the right to interracial marriage up to a plebiscite, justice would have been denied for a decade and a half based on pure animus, and probably longer because the normalization of it drove acceptance. When you have a neighbor in a interracial relationship, then you realize it's not so bad, okay, and then the poll numbers creep up. But if it had been suppressed, it could have been multiple decades before that number crept above 50%. So I don't like relying on a survey that says, yeah, a despised minority is despised, and therefore we should cater to the majority, because all that does is reinforce the position of the despised minority at the bottom of the heap.
Even for
it prolongs it prolongs the suffering.
Even for the PDGA, that's like a member-based organization. Like if
especially
okay.
Especially for the PDGA, that's a member-based organization, because
so just to be clear,
I'm going to get a little bit into sociology here.
you're asking, or you're saying that you feel like the PDGA should right now go against, assuming the garbage survey, go against what the majority, what the not just like 51-49, what appears to be a large majority of the
Sure.
the paying people.
Again, assuming the survey is valid.
Assuming the survey is valid, feel that the PDGA should do. You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think principles matter.
I'm with you.
What do you feel? I mean, maybe to jump to the next I don't know, solution or otherwise. What do you feel would be a
cut
better?
This with a knife.
What would be a better test? Better than the survey.
Oh.
What would be a better temperature, if at all? What's a better solution than what they did with the survey? For instance, I guess that's what I would look to, is how else do we gauge? And I'm not saying the survey is the end all be all. I'm just saying, what other solutions do you feel like could or should be used to weigh in on it, to be able to weigh in on it?
Okay, well, it's not a simple one-step process, and I don't have all the pieces right now, but I'd like to just throw a couple of pieces to the puzzle out and see if they hook up a little bit. For one thing, I think we need an expert, a paid expert in nonprofits on the staff at the PDGA or hired as a consultant at the PDGA to vet board candidates and say, you must be this qualified to apply. The self-nomination of potential directors of the board for an organization with this much money and, this, I don't want to say this much power, but this many people that they're responsible for their fund. I don't feel like it can be just left up to anybody who steps up anymore. I feel like we need a certain level of, at the very minimum, business sense in each board member to represent, or to not make a fool of the board and to not make a fool of the organization and to keep the organization from stepping on rakes. And I think that that's just one piece. And another piece is I actually like a little bit more of a republic type solution as opposed to a pure democracy. I think members of the board should have constituencies and be responsible for doing the best they can with the information they have and making the decisions they have and being accountable for making those decisions at the next election time. But I don't think it needs to be purely poll driven. I think a hint of autocracy might be a good thing. And I'm not saying this is the perfect answer, and I definitely don't have all the puzzle pieces because there are other checks and balances that have to be built in, and I haven't thrown those pieces of the puzzle out on the table yet. So if we do it, I'm just saying right now, it's going to be a friggin' mess, and it won't work. But I feel like pure democracy, pure polling numbers, just going with whatever 51 or 80% of the voters say is not great. I feel like we need a more complicated system with checks and balance, competency checks for board candidates through an experienced, impartial party who knows what they're talking about. And I feel like we need to bring more professional into the Professional Disc Golf Association. I feel like we're coasting along on this volunteer sort of ad hoc vibe into an era when that no longer fits the size of the organization and the scope of the organization's responsibilities.
I know the medical committee is anonymous, and I actually honestly agree with that decision. I think regardless of how this came out, I think that that's probably a good decision for the PDGA. But the board ultimately made the decision. They took what they had with the survey, the medical opinions, whatnot. Do you and we know that the board, it's out there that the board was divided. Do you think we should know the votes of the board?
Absolutely, because right now our only mechanism is the rotating elections for the for the members of the board of directors.
Okay.
And if you don't know where your board is, each member of the board stands on a particular issue, then how can you make an informed decision to try and compose a board that is going to lead the organization in the manner that you think is most suitable?
Now, following along with the board and what we were just saying, and having the voting, and every year having, ushering in potentially having the votes to have new board members get replaced and or maintain their positions. That, like this policy, also is somewhat of a malleable document, right? I mean, this is a policy that's in place. Everything we're talking about today could be completely upended
in a year.
In 365 days. We could be having a completely opposite conversation. I don't think that's going to be the case, but we could have a totally does that excite you? Does that help you at all?
I think.
I mean, what
Well,
does
I think
that mean to you?
Well, I mean, a certain amount of agility is important because, an organization needs to be able to respond quickly to a changing world, but it also needs to be able to respond quickly to the rake that it just stepped on and smacked it in the face. Locking in any policy for a long duration of time for arbitrary reasons is obviously silly, I think.
Yeah, and I believe in the statement they say that it's going to be reviewed every, I don't know if it's every year, every 2 years. I'm not 100% sure what it says. So that I'm happy about, that we can look at it. And honestly, again, going back to the numbers as far as voting versus survey, I mean, it was almost 3-1. And you looked at the voting for the election, and you had candidates that came out and said exactly what the PDG ended up doing, that they were going to do, and they got voted out. They were not voted into the board of directors. We got people who came in that said, that didn't necessarily address the situation, but definitely didn't politic on saying that they were going to ban transgender athletes. So it's really interesting to me personally to look at how we voted. If you voted out there, and if you didn't, shame on you. We got one solution, but the survey 100% flips the situation, and we get a different answer for the survey. It boggles my mind.
That's a red flag to me.
It is, but I think it also here's what I think, and again, this is a guess for the survey. Just like I said, the presidential election always brings in more people. This was a big deal to a lot of people, and I think this drove a lot of people. And I'm not going to lie when I say I think it drove more people who were anti than pro. And I say the same thing I do about any election. If you don't vote, I'm sorry, and you don't like the results, that's your own fault. So if it sucks, it sucks in national politics, it sucks here. If you don't like this and you didn't vote, bummer for you, and you filled out the survey. I wonder if the fact that this drove so many votes, if this is going to change the how people vote in the future for elections. I don't know. That are we going to see more board of directors campaign on this, put in their campaign statements? Or I know it's a red flag in that it's 3-1, but I just feel like this particular survey, with the publicity that it got for what it was doing, pushed more people to vote for it. And like it or not, we've seen out there this particular thing emboldens dickheads who are out online. Like, I hate to say it, but it's true. Like, you see people out there who are now more emboldened. And again, I've seen people be a jerk on both sides. People that I agree with, I've watched them take methods that I don't agree with when talking to other people. Like calling names and such like that is I don't necessarily usually after calling people dickheads and I'm saying I don't like to call people names. I get it. It's whatever. But it's really, I do think that this pushed a specific button for a specific type of person. And I'm not doubting the survey results. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me if this was 95%, we'll say 95% accurate. Because I think this survey really pushed certain people. And I do think that this result is a reaction to that. This policy is a reaction to that particular survey. I don't think it's just the survey. I think it played a part in it. I think it played a part in the DGPT decision. I think it played a part in the PDGA decision. I think that there are probably people on the ground in these divisions that have probably talked to both the PDGA and the DGPT privately. And
I mean, if we're really just going to summarize it, some would say the people have spoken. And I understand everything you just said in terms of how you may disagree with how we got there, but I think a summation would be someone could say, well, the people have spoken, and this is what we have as a result. And then if we just look at it at that level, it's hard to say, okay, here's what we got for responses, and now we're going to intentionally go against what this large majority of people have taken the effort to actually express. And I think that's where that's if on a very high generic level, that's what we're looking at. And honestly, it does feel at face value, it feels very hard to argue with that otherwise. If you do anything and you get 80% of people that say one thing, just instinctually, I think it's very difficult to be like, oh, okay, 80% of people said that, huh? Yeah, let's not do that. Like that feels counterintuitive. Well, and I think that's where we're at with the overall landscape of this policy and of this PDGA membership-driven organization.
And I think that's,
if I may.
Oh yeah, go ahead. No, sorry.
Just if we, I want to walk through this this timeline because, in July the big deal was the election of the board, and there was one major contentious issue that candidates were either aligning for or against, or just putting it way down on their list of priorities and not saying. And because it's such a large field, and because a base failed to coalesce behind their two chosen candidates, those two chosen candidates didn't get in. That's one kind of dynamic, because there were, 9 candidates? Is that right? It was a big field. It was a big field. It was very, very divided. And then the issue, and then at the end of July, the results were announced, and 2 particular candidates were not elected to the board, and a lot of people breathed a sigh of relief. And then a month or 2 later, the survey comes out, and my immediate response was, oh no, because the issue had been presumably settled to a degree. We had the election, you lost, get over it. But then we've got this one issue survey that comes along. The field does not split. There's not 9 candidates. You've got one issue, up or down, or agree or disagree, strongly agree or strongly disagree. And you're going to get your bell curve, and what side of the center line the top of the bell curve falls on is sort of the results of the plebiscite. And I saw that coming, and I was like, they're taking a second swipe at it. For whatever reason, whoever has the authority to push out this survey wants a second cut at it. And if they get good numbers on the survey, they're going to do it. And I had a lot of people of good conscience and good faith trying to talk me down off of that ledge for the last 3 or 4 months. No, it won't come to that. It won't come to that. And sure enough, it came to that. Yeah, the second that survey came out, I was like, yeah, they're taking a second swipe at it. If they get the numbers they want on the survey, it's a done deal. And sure enough, here we are, and I'm talking to y'all.
Yeah, I'll real quickly say though, I don't think, I guess in essence, I'll say I disagree in that I don't feel like they didn't quote unquote get what they wanted during the election, or that, the results didn't come back. Therefore, they had to back end it with a new survey. I think the medical committee and the PDGA said, we quite frankly, we don't have enough information. And this will be one more puzzle piece to us assembling a policy and a structure for where we stand with our transgender policy. So one of those components will be this survey. I would feel differently if this survey was the end-all, be-all, the only thing that there wasn't even a medical committee, and just one day the board was like, hey, we should do a survey, and whatever that comes back, let's just do that. I feel like it was much more thought out in terms of this survey is one component, one little puzzle piece to the overall, a plan of attack of, I don't want to call it an attack, this overall solution plan, though, that we want to come up with. The survey happened to skew, in this case, not in your favor specifically, but I don't think
it wasn't going to.
There was not I agree, but there was not an agenda of, that's where I'll just say I disagree. I do not feel like there was a concerted effort of, hey, we didn't get what we wanted here, and we've got another way to back end this. Let's do that with a survey. I don't feel like that was anyone's objective. The survey may have showed what we thought it would show, but I don't think somebody had that objective.
I think that the survey,
that's me,
is honestly reflective of where we are right now as a country. Like, for a lot of people, this is still pretty new. I mean, for some people, it's not. People, we can look at a lot of things, and much like, you talked about interracial marriage, we're talking the same thing politically about abortion. We're talking the same thing about, gay marriage. Like, the country generally tends to move progressive. I think we're very early in this particular facet of knowledge with a lot of things. There are people right now that are being exposed to things that they never even imagined. and I think personally, I think we'll push. It's going to take, I said, about a decade for the PDGA. I don't know if it's going to be that long, but before I think we really probably re-look at this subject. And I hope it's sooner, but I also know that the PDGA is very particular, and it seems to not necessarily move at the speed of which individuals move. So.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you that the moral arc of the universe does, over the long run, bend towards justice. However, it's not a natural motion.
No,
we have to push it.
100%.
We have to be the ones pushing on that arc to get it to go that way. And that means everybody. That means people who maybe don't feel super strongly one way or the other, and maybe people who prefer tranquility to the tumult and noise of people trying to achieve their rights, need to come off the fence and say a little discomfort and a little noise is okay if the goal is to make things better for everyone in the long run. And I don't know how to reach those people aside from saying to you all right now, get off the fence and help me push the moral arc of the universe towards justice a little bit, pretty please, with sugar on top.
Well, I think we will forever have an impasse, is what I think. The question is to what degree, what level. There's simply never going to be a certain number or percentage of people that will bend in their thought process as to where this is. And I guess it's just gonna be interesting to see what that number is.
There's still people that don't believe in interracial marriage. There's still people that don't believe in gay marriage. There's still people who, there's still people who probably still believe that a woman's place is only in the house.
I online deal daily with people who want to go back to, before the Civil War.
Yeah, exactly.
They want to go back to ownership of humans. And they'll just put it that way. That percentage is always going to be with us. I agree.
I mean, there'll always be a small slice. You're never going to convince 100% of the people.
Yeah.
My personal hope is that we can get to that. That we can flip the script. That we can get to the 80%. That's my hope. And
would be nice.
And again, maybe we're all wrong. Maybe we'll never get there. I don't know. Maybe we won't get there in my lifetime.
Or maybe that study that you alluded to earlier will come out, and I'll be forced to change everything I know about the universe and quit.
So let me.
Oh my God! I am crazy. I do need a psychiatrist.
For the sake of
no, I don't.
That's another thing. You might need it for other reasons, Nova. I've seen your comments online.
Well,
so, you Reddit, you purposefully with me hang out on Reddit. That immediately says that we're a little bit off.
In for the sake of completeness, and I now feel like it's absolutely a fair question to anytime this conversation happens. Yeah. When someone says to you or says just generically online, "Hey,
sure.
I've got the solution. Let's have a transgender division." I would just like to hear your response to that, because that's a go-to response.
Yes, it is.
All the time. And I would just like to give you the opportunity when someone says, or you read, which I'm sure you read daily, someone says, "Hey, I got the solution. Yeah, let's just put all the transgender competitors in a single division." Your response to that is?
It's usually just STFU, but because you asked so kindly, I will do it once here on this show, and hopefully we get a timestamp, and then I can just point to it in future discussions when that comes up in the future.
So, about an hour and 7 minutes into the show.
Yeah, let's bookmark this. Okay, here's the response to that, and listen up, because I'm not saying it again, ever. First off, separate but equal is inherently unequal. That's settled law in the United States. Go back to desegregation. Second, how many divisions does your tournament director have in a given tournament on a given weekend for your 72 or 90 people at a B or a C or an A tier? Let's instantly multiply that by a factor of 50% more. You had MPO, FPO, MP40, FP40. That's a joke. There's never FP40. MA1, FA1, MA2, FA2, MA2, FA2, however many divisions that is. What are we up to? About dozen and a half. Let's have another 9 to 12 divisions on top of that. And now let's do this for a fraction of I'm segueing into point 3. Let's do this for a fraction of the disc golfing population that is a percent of a minority. The man-to-woman ratio in the PDGA, just people who say they're men, people who say they're women, don't care how they got there. The ratio of men to women in the PDGA is like 93.5% to 6.5%, and it's been plus or minus 0.1% for the last 8 years. And I know because I'm a nerd and I read it every year.
I'd say 28 years, but yeah, it's been forever. Roughly 93 to 93% to 7%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a 14-to-1 ratio of men to women, and already most women's divisions don't get offered on any given weekend. You go to a B tier, C tier. I don't know what it's like where you're at. Maybe it's different on the coasts for you elites, but out here in the middle of the country, typical B tier, C tier, 72 or 90 players, 4 or 5 women max, which means, on a field of 90, hey, just throw all the 5 women on a card, whatever their skill levels are. Cool. That's easy. But now you take that 7%, that's women, however they got there, and say, let's split out the transgender women into their own division, TPO and TP40, and wow, these sound weird when I say them out loud. A fraction of a percent of 7% is how many? You're going to have a field of 1 in one division among the 20 possible divisions.
99% of the time, 99.9% of the time.
Yeah, and that's at the tournaments where a trans player even shows up. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not going to lie, you make it to where trans women are playing in TPO and TP40 and TFA. Oh my God, how does this work? No, we're just going to quit. Because you go back to point one, separate but equal feels bad and it's garbage and it's not equal and it's extremely othering. The point of transition, and this is going to get into the feels and away from the reels. So all your reels versus feels people, check out for a second. Miss me. The whole point of transition for binary trans people, because non-binary people are real and valid, love you too, is not to be trans forever. There are a lot of binary trans people. I'm one of them. Not saying it's the best way to go. I'm saying it's a way to go, and it's the one I'm doing. I didn't give up everything I gave up, and I gave up a lot. I gave up more than voluntarily, really, more than 99% of the audience could ever lose. And if you do ever lose as much as I do, you have my condolences, because it sucks. Go through all of that. Live your authentic life. Get a passport that says the gender that you are, a birth certificate that says the gender you are. Lose friends, lose family, lose potential income, lose real income, lose jobs, become a hated, member of society. To be a part-time whatever you are. I don't give up all of that. To be a woman 6 days and 12 and a half hours a week. And then when I'm at the disc golf course playing at a sanctioned event, to be in the trans division. I don't want to move from one space to the other every weekend for the thing I do for fun and the thing I do to see my friends. And I think a lot of people feel the same way I do. And you split MPO and FPO and TPO. You miss the T's. We're gone. Our attendance will plummet because this separate but equal thing is not equal. We see through it. We PG word. It's bullshit, and we're not going to put up with it. And because we don't do what we do to live that way and to suffer such foolishness. We will find better things to do with our time and shake the dust off our feet. So for once and for all, that is why we don't have all the T divisions. Bookmark it.
Have something. Thank you for explaining.
De nada.
Has something like this survey and the policy to follow that point, will this just drive you or others out of the sport? And
some will. I have had conversations with cisgender women who don't feel ethically like they can give another nickel to the PDGA, and they don't feel good participating. And that's just in the past. God, what time is it? In the past 36 hours since I first learned of this and been talking about this with people who take things seriously, people of goodwill with strong ethical cores, out of solidarity for transgender people, are saying, I can't be a part of this. Or in their words, not my words, the organization is rotten and they want nothing to do with it. And I'm not going to question their wisdom.
I did see a post. It wasn't a direct post. I think it was a cut and paste from Chloe Alice saying that there's a very good chance she's done. That she doesn't feel welcome.
That's a shame.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And honestly, I respect that decision because it's up to everybody to find their comfort level. I'm very truculent. I have no problem putting one foot in front of the other despite the people who would see me stopped. Not a problem. Their boos mean nothing to me. I've seen what makes them cheer.
Natalie Ryan has stated that she's looking for legal representation. I believe there's a GoFundMe in place, and so on and so forth. Have you had any conversations with her directly? And I apologize if that if I
we talk a little bit, but I'm not going to share strategy.
Together. I don't mean to do that.
No, we have a secret club where we all hang out and exchange knee socks.
Okay.
And then we put on skirts and go spinny. It's adorable.
Your knee socks would come up to her waist. I'm sorry, poor Natalie. She's not the tallest.
No, I buy thigh highs and they go to my knees. It's the worst. No, I'm just kidding. I wear crew socks because I'm an athlete. Anyway. I'm sorry. That's an online trend stereotype, and I'm just having a lot of fun with it to break the mood. Excuse me. I'm not trying to put anybody in a box.
Well, Natalie has actually, assuming this is the real Natalie, which I believe it is. Says, correction, I have legal representation. So I guess to further that point.
Yeah, she's in chat.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, have you seen other scenarios where you feel like there some legal either precedents or whatever may take place that you feel like is directly relatable and applicable? Because as we said earlier, a lot of this is new to a lot of people, ourselves included, the PDGA, everyone, and sporting organizations in general. I feel like this is very new.
People who are smarter than me have told me things, and I listen to them because they're smarter than me. And something I've learned, and I probably could have sussed this out myself, but it just would have taken a lot longer, so I'm glad they told me, is that this policy could cause trouble for tournament directors who are members of professional organizations because of what they do for a living, aside from being a TD, that have a code of ethics that includes a non-discrimination clause that includes transgender people. And if a person in such a career runs a tournament in a jurisdiction, skip jurisdiction, if such a person runs a tournament where they have to enforce what is considered a discriminatory policy by their profession's professional body, do they risk censure? And could we lose volunteer tournament directors that way? And then getting over to jurisdictions, in jurisdictions that have more robust anti-transgender discrimination laws, are these volunteer tournament directors potentially exposing themselves to some sort of legal opprobrium? And I don't know the answer to that question, but I think the doubt around it could discourage tournament directors from wanting to do that. I don't know. I mean, I live in Missouri, where yesterday they proposed a law to take away the children of adults who let them transition, even if you do it in another state. So I'm not going to court anytime soon out here. This jurisdiction is screwed. So no, you won't see me. You won't see me in state court, federal court, or the people's court. Not in Missouri. But from a professional or a professional governing body standpoint, like, I don't know, bar associations or engineering, whatever engineers do, what's their group called? White collar professionals who are parts of larger organizations for their licensure that have these codes of ethics that might include transgender non-discrimination clauses. We might be losing them as TDs. And then, of course, TDs, and I'm repeating myself. You know the other part. I just said it. Excuse me.
I'll say regarding Natalie's GoFundMe. I understand that. I read it. I didn't love some of the phrasing, and I know Natalie's on the board, so she can chime in if she likes. I feel like she did demean some of the FPO division, and I understand that it is coming from a place of not necessarily happiness. I know I've said this before about Natalie. I think she's always welcome, and I respect and I believe in what she's doing, but I didn't necessarily love that particular aspect of the phrasing of how she went about it. I think it did nothing to help her cause.
I don't want to judge the actions of a trauma survivor when they're experiencing a fresh trauma.
100%, and that's what I'm saying is that
I don't think that's a good idea.
I can look past some things. I mean, hindsight's 2020, and it's all pretty fresh, but I support, because I think that we are in. This is from what Natalie's doing. This is new. I don't know if we've seen anything like this go to a court of law to a sporting organization, assuming that's where this goes. That we meet the end. I don't know, and I don't know what type of legality we're going to see in each individual state, in different countries, in different continents. I don't know where this goes. I don't know what it's going to look like. If things would be different in Europe versus the U.S., there's a lot that we're possibly stepping into over the next couple of years. Because again, knowing the way that the legal system works, it's not usually fast. So this could be going on for years to come. This is not my project, so I don't know anything about it, and what little I've been told in confidence. Understand.
So cannot talk about it. I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah, I guess before we start to wrap up or let you go, I think from your perspective...
Wow, this has been a minute.
Yeah,
I know. Welcome to Smashbox.
Yeah. No, but from your perspective, where do we go from here? Where in a very applicable, realistic, timely fashion? I mean, I'm not speaking just high level kind of. I'm speaking like in the weeds, granular, like specific. Where do you go from here? What do you do next?
Personally, or
you personally. I think everyone has kind of their take and their path as to what they're doing, depending on where they stand, which is fine with everyone. Where do you personally go next? Knowing you're,
I'm gonna play in 2023, and I'm gonna try to get my 3X in Flagstaff. But even though I am extremely unhappy with what the PDGA has done, in fact, I'll just say it: I despise what the PDGA has done. It's given me the longest 36 hours that I've had in a couple of decades at this point, and that includes some conflicts with family. I am going to persist anyway, and you're going to say, Nova, how do you ethically square the circle of continuing to participate with this organization that you just said you despise? And I'm going to answer that question because I think it's a very good question. Transgender people, and I'm going to, not all of us, but enough that I can generalize, have a fraught relationship with institutions, whether it's a governmental agency, the hospital, schools and school boards, political parties, employers. We exist in a constant state of tension with institutions because we are aware that almost no institution altruistically has our best interests at heart at any given time. They'll take the path of least resistance, whatever that path is. And if that means that in a given moment, they can turn on us and throw us under the bus because that's the path of least resistance, or if they can treat us in a discriminatory manner or discard us when we're not convenient, they will. And as a result, the support network for transgender people is not institutions. We don't say we can count on the courts to save us, or we can call the cops, and if things are bad, we can call the cops because they might take us to jail. And when you're trans, you do not want to go to jail. Trust me on this one, because you don't know which cells you're going to go into. It's gross. Anyway, we mistrust institutions, so our support structure is other people. It's our community. It's the loved ones who we trust, who we love, and they love us, our friends, and our chosen family, to use a term. And right now, my chosen family and my friends and the people who I love and the people who love me the most are disc golfers. And not just the ones in my local community who I see at a weekly league, but people I might see once or twice a year at tournaments when I go out on the road and get out 500, 600, 700 miles away from home. And they're so happy to see me, and I'm so happy to see them, and we have such a great time. And that's my social safety net. Those are my people. And if I give up on disc golf, I'm giving up on my people. I am discarding my social safety net. So the actions of the PDGA could have driven a wedge between me and my safety net, but I'm not going to let them. I'm going, because mistrusting one more institution is not a big ask for me. I already mistrust so many institutions. I'm already skeptical of the motives of so many organizations and authority figures, that being skeptical of the PDGA, man, the day the PDGA broke your heart might have been the worst day of your life, but the day the PDGA broke my heart was Tuesday. So it's, I know this sounds glibly cynical, and I'm sorry if I'm hurting any feelings, but I'm going to continue on, because you can't take my friends away. I won't let you. It takes more than that to get me and my friends apart. I need them, and they like me, and they love me, and that's that. And I don't know, maybe if I keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep representing, and people keep seeing that I'm not a terrible monster and a threat to their women and children, that, I don't know, maybe some minds will be changed, and to do a callback, that moral arc of the universe will bend backwards again. I'm not saying everybody has to do it. If somebody wants to walk away from disc golf, if they've got another social safety net, or if they're just not in a place where they can ethically continue with the PDGA, I respect that. Go in peace. And in fact, go with my best wishes. But this is where my friends are, so I'm staying. You can't have them. They're mine.
I've got two things, and then we'll let you go. One, like you just said, I can't fault anybody for walking away. I always say vote with your dollars if you don't believe in the policy. Either way, because like I said, I've heard both sides don't like this policy, depending on where you are in the sport. I can't fault that. Me personally, I'm always a fan of fighting from within. So finding a way to, if you don't like the policy, stick with it. Vote your beliefs. If either way, I'm not going to fault you. Depending on which way you feel. Everybody knows at this point how I feel. And finally, the second thing is, Nova, I miss Lady of the Chains. So
yeah.
So anyway, if you can work on some of that podcast a little bit. I know you weren't kind of heading that up, but you were involved in it. Maybe poke a little bit, because I feel like we are missing. I made the comment on a Discord that we have a lot of podcasts in disc golf, but we have a lack of a different perspective that Ladies of the Chains gave. Because if you look at the podcasts and if you look at our sport, I think of the big ones: Foundation, Smashbox, Ultra World, On the Box. We're all middle-aged white guys. and I get it. Like I think we need different perspectives, and that was at least a start. So if you could poke a person or two to get that going, I'm still subscribed. I haven't seen a podcast in a while, so please, we need a different perspective. We need more voices.
I'll see if I can buy the name. The owner and producer, Becca Kephart. She was the driving force behind the whole thing. All props. She is a professional musician and music teacher, and plays gigs and teaches. And if you know anybody in that life, it is a gig life, and you're constantly moving and hustling, and everything is in a state of flux. And the state of flux took her away from the ability to do podcasts.
Well, start your own. It doesn't have to be Lazy the Chains. That was just the one I'm subscribed to. If you can get a different one, just in general, I would love an FPO or a women's perspective. I would love your perspective in general. I think there are, you as you said, you are an underserved community. I think there's a voice out there. I love all the podcasts I listen to. I like listening to Dixon. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but I like listening to him. I watch a little bit of the Foundation stuff. I don't watch much disc golf in general, so sorry.
Okay.
I do listen to Alta World now and again. I'm good friends with Charlie, but we do have a very limited perspective on who tends to be our media right now. And so I would love it if we could get more perspectives. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, start a podcast. Nova. If you want to do it on your Smashbox, we're here.
I'll tell you what.
I will start up a thing for you.
I'll tell you what. You get me going on a podcast, you're going to hear some leftist shit. So.
Well, there's room for that. I have no problem with that.
Do you really want Ladies of the Chains to break in chains electric boogaloo?
I'm here for it. If you want to start a podcast, I'll host it. I'll make sure that you have a voice. And I say that for anybody out there. If you will regularly give us content and you are a perspective that I feel that is underserved or not seen, by all means reach out to me. I will make sure that you get something set up. Smashbox is open for it, always. So
okay, I'll tell you,
but that's
you are getting me way out of my comfort zone. I'm such an introvert.
Well, good. I'm glad I can push you a little bit out of your comfort zone. I think that's difficult sometimes. So anyway, Nova, we do appreciate your time tonight. We appreciate all your input. It is always good to. I always smile when I get to read your comments, whether it's online or particularly on Reddit. I seem to see you most. I know you post there on occasion, but
I'm not proud of that.
I know, neither am I. But
nobody should be. It's Reddit,
but yet we're there. I get it. So thank you for joining us tonight on one day.
Absolutely delighted to be here.
So.
I've been waiting a long time to be on the show, and I'm glad I got to be the only one on the show. Yay! This has all been worth it.
And you know what? I hope we have you on again. Maybe to celebrate a 3-time world championship. Maybe
it's a deal.
All right,
Nova. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon. Take care.
Hey, it's almost time for the after show.
Almost.
It's getting awfly close.
Holy
all right.
Cow.
Okay. Good night, Nova.
Good night.
It's not official, but I wanted to say it. Good night.
Good night. Nova Politte, everybody.
All right. We are going to continue to forge through 2023 with these new policies. Policies by the PDGA, policies by the Disc Golf Pro Tour. As you know, we touched on, not only will they get reviewed, they may one way or another be, well, not one way or another. This may be the first of the next 50 years of this same policy. This may be officially, starting to cement it, and it becomes a cornerstone of our athletic competition and policy. Or this could be completely different in a year or 2 years or 10 years. As we all know, things continue to evolve and change. I think that goes with all of our election cycles. Obviously, she had some input as to what may or may not be possible changes for the overall makeup of our board. I don't know that all of that is. I feel like that's all. That's all extrapolated thought that I never would have arrived at, where she took all of that in terms of, well, maybe our board makeup needs to be different, or assignments and or voting and such. That's all. I leave like the high level thinking to a lot of other people that aren't me. I'm very much more reactionary. Maybe that becomes a talking point in the future. Maybe we continue to vote the way we have, and it's continues to be this way as it's been for the last 40 years. I don't know, but nonetheless, most importantly, I think not only do we want the fact that the policy exists and that it is correctly represented or factually represented, it is also great to then have Nova and her representation here on the show tonight, and so we very much appreciate that. Hopefully, maybe she gave you a perspective of something you never thought about, or maybe she reinforced a thought that you already had, and you're just more solidified in your ways. Whatever the case might be, I hope that Nova provided some insight and perspective, because oftentimes, we obviously say representation matters, but oftentimes, like you just said, it's a couple of guys sitting around talking about a lot of issues that we aren't personally experiencing or living through or having those challenges that she can have on any given day.
You and I
some
don't,
things that we couldn't even truly honestly fathom.
Yeah, you and I don't have to think nearly about the things that our trans athletes have to think about. And it is, I know this is a heated word, but it is our privilege that we don't have to do that. And I'm glad that we can get different points of view. I didn't necessarily agree with everything Nova said, but I'm glad we had her on. I'm glad that there are people out there that do. And there's a lot of people on the board I'm watching right now that really didn't like what we said. I'm okay with that. But that's kind of why we're here. Yeah. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about some player stuff.
All right.
Let's go there.
Other player stuff.
Other player stuff. We've seen a couple players starting to announce their movement from their current sponsor. The big one, Anthony Barella. Anthony Barella announced sometime late last week, I believe, that he was leaving Innova. And
I have an update to that.
Oh, do you?
From when Anthony Barella slid into my DMs.
Oh, geez.
Since the show started.
Anthony. Oh, geez. Don't slide into Terry's DMs. It's creepy.
Well, to be fair, I started it.
I'm sure you did.
I get no exclusive updates other than him telling me January 1st is the date. I asked him, any on or off the record, and he did reply actually just in the last couple hours.
It would make sense because his contract with Innova, I believe the Innova contracts tend to go January to January. So he is respecting his contract. I give him all the props for that. We can project and guess. There are 1,000 different things we could guess with Anthony Barella. Any particular manufacturer would be blessed to have him. He does have a lot of really strong roots with Paul McBeth. A lot of people called him a little Paul McBeth protege. He is in Arizona, where Paul Ulibarri was from. So there's strong Discraft pull there. So a lot of, I would say that if you're betting smart money, the smart money is Discraft. But we have also seen a lot of smaller manufacturers like your Clash, like your Lone Star, that can easily look at Anthony and say, he could be our flagship player. Now, Anthony has not done a full tour because of school. I don't know if his plan in 2023 is to do the full tour or not, but I would think if he's going to make a big announcement with a new sponsor, that might be on the horizon if I were to take an educated guess. Here's what I'll say about Anthony Barella. He can throw any disc really, really far. He can throw paper plates really far.
You would
Minis.
even say he could yeet a disc?
I would not ever say that because I'm 44 years old. So,
but AB
may say that. Funny story. We had we had a birthday party here for my daughter last week. We have a little finished basement there. There's an area behind our couch where the kids like to jump and crawl. It's kind of this little thing. A girl literally said, "I'm going to yeet myself out of this spot," and said it in a regular conversation. And I just chuckled like, the kids do say it. So I'm too.
I mean, if you're 9-year-olds are still saying it.
11, but yes,
11-year-olds, yeah.
But I'm personally too old to say it. Anyway, I could see Anthony Barella being a flagship player at Clash, at Lone Star, at any smaller manufacturer that could give him a thing. And the way Anthony throws, maybe you can really. Maybe you have a better feeling on the pulse of this. If Anthony Barella is throwing a disc and it goes real far and he's playing well, it's probably going to sell well. That guy throws. And it feels to me drivers tend to sell better for sponsored players. Is that a pretty fair statement? Like, I just don't know. Other than Paul and the Luna, I know other players are sponsored by or have their signature disc as putters, but it really feels to me like a signature disc that's a driver, a fairway or not a fairway or a distance driver tend to sell better for players. I mean, you've got the Sexton Firebird, which is the ultimate highest you can be. Like that is the pinnacle of selling discs as a sponsored player, I think. And then if you want to talk a single disc. And then you've got all the Paul Macbeth stuff. And it doesn't matter with Paul because he can sponsor anything. Again, he can put his name on a paper plate and people are going to buy it. Do you feel that if you put Anthony Barella's name on a signature driver of almost any manufacturer, that's probably going to sell very well?
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Of course, he's known for driving and the distance that he has, so it only makes sense, in my opinion, a very unprofessional, unsponsoring opinion, that you would attach it to some form of driver. It could be a fairway, but I like the idea personally of a distance driver because of his just raw power and whatnot. And
that's what's funny, because I think if he goes to Discraft, what distance driver is he going to get? Like, they're almost all taken.
You can always vary, and we can have a Jawbreaker, Flex, Sparkle, Metal Flake, Glow Force, or whatever.
Do you have some of them?
Yeah,
you probably do.
They're all the rage.
I think you probably do.
I could get you into a pair today for just $49.99.
But
and they say AB on the back already. Perfect.
Ooh, nice.
So. Yeah, it would make sense, likely to have him with a driver, but now there are so many variations, and this is not worth fully diving into, but there's just so many variations of the disc lineups, and there's the Tour Series disc, then there's signature disc, then there's a special run of disc, and then inevitably you win something, you get another, maybe a special set of commemorative discs, depending on how on top of it your sponsor really is. And then, is the artwork any good? Are they already oversaturating? There's so many massive annoyances that I see on the daily when it comes to all those things I just mentioned, that now it's more convoluted and messy than ever. But yes, putting him on a driver of some sort seemingly would make sense.
And I just feel,
we'll see.
And I don't mean this insulting, Anthony Barella right now is a tier 2 level player in our MPO field. He is not regularly winning events. I don't believe he's ever won an Elite Series event. He tends to play very well and then usually have a stretch of, I don't know what it is, but not play well. Whether it's putting, whether it's OB.
I mean, he won this weekend, but go on.
He did. But again, is it an Elite Series event? Who was his strongest competitor? Were they within 10 ratings points of him?
Not so much.
Okay. So
Drew Gibson was not the closest to him. Oh, Drew Gibson was the closest ratings-wise, but finished 12 spots behind him.
Okay. So just in general, AB is an elite talent when it comes to driving. And to put someone like him, I'll say almost any tier 2 level player in our sport, into a smaller company, to me right now feels really good. He might not get what he would get at a Discraft, or we'll just say Innova or Prodigy, whatever that may be. Even if he wasn't the focus of that particular team, he might not get that at a smaller thing, but he would be focused on more. He might not get the same perks. I really like the idea of AB going to a smaller company and really being the guy there. That's what I would like to see. I don't know if that's what we're going to see. Kind of speaking to that, there are a lot of rumors out there right now that Mason Ford is leaving DD and going to Mint. I have heard more than one rumbling from a few places, so I figured
that has not been minted in.
It has not been minted anywhere yet, but that is what I'm hearing, is Mason Ford to Mint, and that's how I feel. Like, Mason Ford is, again, a tier 2 level MPO player. He has a lot of potential. He won a Silver Series event last year. Was it this year even?
No, last year.
I think it was last year, yes. He has potential, and I don't feel like DD, where he was at, really highlighted him much. I think it was, for DD, a lot of the focus was on Ricky and the FPO field. Val, Kona, Macy, Holland. Like, those were really their core things. I kind of feel like Mason was not quite in the spotlight. And to be fair, I don't think he earned the spotlight at any point. So for him to move to a smaller company like Mint, again, same mentality. I think it makes sense. At Mint, he can be a big fish in a small pond. Because Mint is not the size of any of the big, we'll say the big 4 or 5, whatever you want to call them, And so he could be a focus at Mint, especially as a touring player. And every year you hear me say this, I'm always all about couples on tour splitting sponsorship.
Bang for your buck.
Bang for your buck. Have one go with one manufacturer, one with another. I didn't like it when Mason and Val together signed with DD.
They should have. If they,
I love DD.
Why are they not consulting you?
I don't know. I love
That's
DD.
what I want to know.
Good friends there. But I wouldn't want them to sign with the same manufacturer at all. I say hedge your bets. Always go. If you're a couple on tour, always go with two manufacturers. Just make, you never know. That's just my words of wisdom as an old man who's never toured and ever amounted to anything on in the pro field. I mean, take that for what it's worth.
Sounds great. It's always when I look for my best touring advice, I go to Johnny.
It's right
V.
here,
as you should. Johnny V.
As you should.
As we should. Yeah. Thank you for that insight. I'm sure all the pros just hit rewind and just snuggled right up to their laptop.
Clip that out.
What
mark
did Johnny
it on the
V
time.
say? Let me lock that one in.
That's right. Terry, did you see one or two other athletes that were changing? Or moving?
Well, I was just going to circle back briefly, and I have no dog in this fight or official knowledge, but I would be willing to make a wager that we'll see Anthony Umbrella on Team Discraft.
Well, that's what I said. That's what the smart money is.
I'm just that's my official unofficial
again,
take. That means nothing.
A lot of it makes sense. There's a lot of ties to Discraft. And maybe someone at Discraft is leaving or being shown the door, and there'll be a perfectly clear slot for him for a disc. Or maybe he'll get his own disc.
It is disc slotted. Okay. I don't know if I have publicly any other. I
thought you saw something on the other side of the country, other side of the world.
Oh yeah. Interestingly enough,
I thought that was public. But
yes, yeah, it is because it was. She did post it to
okay,
Facebook. So
I was
I'm
pretty sure.
No, that's legit. I did. I forgot for a moment. Cassie Sweeten had just made an announcement. I saw it just before we went live here tonight, and she put up. As we wrap up 2022, I'd like to take this opportunity to share the news that I won't be continuing my sponsorship with Innova next year. For the last 5 years, I've been given an opportunity to be on the international team. I've personally hit a lot of goals and shared amazing highlights with them over that time, but for now it's me to hang up my wings. I will be forever grateful for the opportunity. I mean, let's put it this way. Australian disc golf, women's, especially women's, and I would almost even... When, to me, she is the face of Australian disc golf. And that goes to the ambassador. Her husband plays, her husband's best friend plays, they're professionals. There's a lot of other people in Australia, and no disrespect to any of them. But when I personally think of Australia disc golf and Australian disc golf, outside of my boys Kinga and Luke and those guys, when I think of professional representatives and players of Australia, Cassie Sweeten is the person, period.
Okay.
And so
I've heard the name. I don't necessarily, obviously, clearly, I don't know the player.
You actually probably briefly met her in 2010 at the Japan Open.
Oh, okay.
For what that's worth. It was a long time ago for all of us, but
yeah.
If she wasn't there in 10, it was 08.
I drank a lot
or she might have been in both. But either way, she's been I believe part of Throw Pink as well, part of Innova. Just competed against Jen Allen, who was there competing a few weeks ago in Australia, and you just cannot say enough kind things about the professional and yet friendly face that she has been, and just representing disc golf in Australia. So whoever she may align herself with, some obvious thoughts for me would be New Zealand's RPM, who is just across the little body of water there in New Zealand. That would come to mind. I know she and some friends have ties to Latitude, or it could be something entirely new. Maybe she's with Lone Star. I don't know. I think that would be really random, and but anything's possible these days.
I think we just start putting every player on Lone Star at this
There you
point.
go.
And so we unfortunately hurt them because it's disappointing at the end of the year. They're like, someone's like, I heard a lot of players going to Lone Star on Smashbox, and,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they end up signing one.
They get all this publicity that Lone Star. We are looking for sponsorship. No, so
You can be part of the Ranger team.
anyway, that's what I will say about that. So best of luck to her. And wherever she lands, like I said, she will definitely be an asset to any disc golf company and or manufacturer that ultimately she represents.
And real quick, I do want to circle back around something we touched on right before we spoke with Nova. Ratings updates came out, and we did see Manabu become the highest rated player in our sport at 1051, 1 point, I believe, ahead of Paul McBeth, who was at 1050. And that may surprise a lot of you because he doesn't tour. And I don't know if that's more impressive or less impressive that he can only play B tiers with a limited field, and he is our highest rated player. Because I think that has to be difficult to get your rating up that high when you don't have a chance to play against these top rated players. And yet he's representing. So Prodigy currently right now has the #1 rated player in the world.
Yeah, looking at his season for this year, he's played in 9 events. He's won 8 of them and took second at the double. So we'll definitely blame his partner.
Oh, certainly.
For sure.
If we can find out whoever his partner was, we'll blame
I'll
that
tell you in a
person.
minute. We will definitely have to call them out. The partner there was
I'm going to feel bad when it's...
Masaki Ioka.
oh, gosh, that guy. Just dragging down Manabu.
No. I apologize. No, Misaki was the winner.
Oh.
So they tied. Rico Kenyamaya was his partner.
I should have known. That's typical.
Masaki's one of the guys that helped take him down. So. Either way.
I would love it if,
There's
and
some
I know
random-
things changed and Manabu was not able to tour a lot. We had COVID and travel and this and that. I do hope we get to see a little bit more Manabu. I know he tends to hit the West Coast events sometimes. It's been a while. But I really hope that, you look at that and that he can somehow find a way to make it over here to tour the U.S. so everybody gets a chance to see Manabu, because it is fun to watch him play. Super smooth, just a great player. Clearly at 1051, I know a lot of people are going to look at that and go like, yeah, well, I want to see how he does against all the big boys that are here at the Elite Series. He'll do well, and it would be fun to. It would be really fun to watch Manabu get a full tour in for one season of his life.
Okay, and someone from the PDGA celebrating a birthday, Rebecca Hall Duffy. It is
Happy
her birthday
birthday.
today, so I wanted
Professional former axe thrower.
yes,
True story.
I don't know. Are you ever a former axe thrower? Because I feel.
Well, I
like
mean, she still throws axes, but she's a former professional.
okay. I was gonna say I feel like
I don't know
you're
if you
always
should professional. I mean, she won money doing it. She was like a champion.
competitions.
So I guess professional would be the right term.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We throw a lot of words around though.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, I wouldn't give her a sharp object and make her mad.
Mm. Well, you're pretty dull, so we're already good. Anyway,
I've got your mute button right here, Terry. I can literally just shut you up.
I don't know if there's anything else we have to cover in
There's
the
not.
regular show that is coverage worthy. You'll get a plug for it now and in the after show. So I'm going to tell you, New Year's Eve down at Fairfield in Northern Illinois, New Year's Eve flex start. Chaining in the new year will be a flex start taking place. And in the after show, I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience Sunday and the brewery and Dis and money flying everywhere.
And you
Like disc
visited
in a box.
you visited a mall.
Oh yeah, I sure did.
And I want to close this out by saying I've read the board. I focused on that a little bit during the Nova conversation. I understand a lot. But as we said, it's kind of a little motto here. Just don't be a dick. Please. Don't misgender people. Don't call people names that they don't want to be called. If you do that, I'm going to call you a name. And I don't like to call people names.
Yeah, don't do that, John.
So please be kind, be understanding. That's all we really ask.
Yeah, you can disagree. We can all disagree with policy. How I feel, how Johnny feels, how someone else feels. I may even disagree with Johnny or the next person or the next person. There's at no point. I think that gets lost in translation, especially within our show, and I know especially for me personally, people assume just because I don't ridicule or go hard on any given person or entity means that I'm 100% in agreement with them or I'm 100% in agreement with the way things are going. No, I just try to be as cordial as possible. I don't always succeed at that, but at the end of the day, yes, let's just have a little bit of compassion toward anyone. We can absolutely disagree, and as I continue to say, we should argue about things like policy more so than the person. Or just feeling like you have to go out of your way to make it so personal when I think we can talk about higher level policy. But and that's just incredibly generic, not just for disc golf related things. That's what we can try and do. Be kind, rewind, as Daniel says. Exactly. All right, guys, we're going to say, and be informed. That's a good one, Sue. We're all good with that. I take your best shot at always being up on as many things as you possibly can so that hopefully you are informed when you do want to form your opinion. And you know what? Your opinion can differ with the next person. I think it's just how you present it. I think that's probably the most important part here. So for Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. Thank you to Nova Politte for joining us. It was great having her on the show and getting her perspective as well. Read up on all the policies, see where you fit in, and at the end of the day, you could just still be nice to everybody, no matter where you stand on it. We're going to have an after show. Things will get a little bit silly. I got stories for you. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 433's After Show. No, it ain't the after party scramble. It's the after show.
Yeah, I mean, anywhere that Terry and I are is a party, but this isn't the after party.
No. We do have to thank Sean Mercy. We appreciate you, buddy. He says, thank you for being awesome. That one was directed at me, not so much you.
That's fine.
Just kidding.
This next one is mine.
Yeah, Chris Carpenter, where he says nothing.
Yes.
That's what he thinks.
But it was more. That's why he thought more of me than you.
Chris Carpenter and Sean Mercy, we do
Huge
sincerely
shout-out.
appreciate you both. Thank you for being on here.
FYI, I was dead serious when I was at the end of the Nova thing when I said, if there is someone out there that feels like they have a perspective and wants a platform to talk, I'm happy to help work on a podcast and put it kind of maybe under the Smashbox umbrella. We can kind of work on that. If you feel like all I ask is a little dedication and a little consistency, it just be every 2 weeks, as long as you tell me what's going on, I'm happy to help work with you on that. If you want to start your own podcast and you don't want to put it under Smashbox, I believe at that point you call Brody. Let him bother those guys, or Charlie Eisenhood. Either one. I don't want to work with you tech support unless it's under Smashbox. I've done enough tech support for the disc golf community. Ask Tyler Brickley. That guy's
lost without you.
I'm assuming he has a whole career because of me. I taught him how to be funny.
Mm-hmm.
I basically taught him all the video skills he knows.
Yep, and then you play video games.
Yeah.
He does that, I think.
Yeah, he plays a lot of Rocket League, which he more or less learned from me, even
Probably.
though I've never played the game.
But if he had to learn...
it was from me.
Yeah.
And in general, yes. So Tyler Brickley owes his probably his marriage even to me. A lot of things. But in general, yeah.
That'd be a good idea.
But anyway, podcast, if you're interested, reach out. I'm happy to help out.
Doc Zen is on the board saying maybe you could talk Paige Shoe and then be the Sue and Shoe podcast, which I do love that idea. That sounds like a good one. Paige Shoe, another one of those competitors that I know we've talked about in the last couple of weeks that may be making some sponsorship announcements sometime soon. She has not done so yet, but we'll see where Paige Shoe. And I think we maybe touched on it last week. Maybe we didn't, but I want to quickly say I continue to see the pictures come in from Chandler Fry along with Missy Elliott.
Missy Misdemeanor Elliott?
Yes, Chandler Fries with Missy Elliott.
It's amazing.
No. Anyway,
get your freak on. Get your freak on. They are. You know how old we are?
Yes.
I wanted to mention something to Nova because behind her there were stacks of CDs.
Oh yeah.
Like racks of CDs, and I was just chuckling to myself, like, I wonder what CDs she has, and why does she still have CDs out?
Yeah. What are you playing those on?
But anyway, yes, Kenya, right?
No. I don't know. Somewhere. But now you're gonna make me look it up. I knew it last week. I forget. But anyway, I've been seeing pictures of them. They're on a Paul Macbeth Foundation based trip.
I should know this, and
I know.
I feel bad.
I was going to say I knew it.
I don't think it's Kenya now that I say it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Let me.
Somebody on the board will point it out to us.
Whoops. Chandler Fry.
Let's see if you can get it before the board. Come on, Terry.
No. Oh, it's not on. Well, who's taking who here?
I've seen it on Instagram personally, but
yeah. Anyway, they're doing work.
Shout out to them. They're doing great, even if we don't know.
Even if we don't know anything about it. Katosi, Uganda.
All right. Well, we beat the board.
No,
so.
it's not. It's
no,
not
we
Uganda.
didn't. I'm sorry. Hype Man says it was Uganda. Was it Uganda? So that might be where they're visiting, as opposed to where the course is going in.
No, that's where it was.
Okay, it is Uganda.
we
Thanks, Hype Man.
nailed that.
Hype Man,
This is why we're the best show you're not listening to.
Yeah, Hype Man, you probably deserve to sit in one of these seats.
I did see what I perceived as a pretty inaccurate thread yesterday.
Awesome.
I think on Reddit.
That's what we like to do, is promote inaccuracies.
Yep. Well, there was just a conversation about somebody thought Paige and Grady owned a disc golf store. And unless there's big news that I did not hear of, I don't believe that to be the case.
They do
and
not.
then it also the thread also said that Grady was sponsored by Discraft,
which he is not currently.
Which would be news to me, and I can't find them on the website. But it's amazing the things I learn on Reddit.
Now, maybe he's going to Discraft.
He might be. I'm not saying that's not
a preview
possible.
of things to come, but no, not currently.
But yes, Grady has been working at another round.
Yes. He does not own it, but he's been working there.
Again, it's the internet, so I learn all sorts of just fun things that are wildly untrue.
Well,
anyway,
we're here to spread it.
Sue said you knew that show with Courtney Peavy. Oh, hope Courtney's well. Was that Grady in the $30 budget Yuli Ezra video? I believe that's where somebody said they saw him is in that, which made make perfect sense. All right.
You know what, Terry? So this week, I've kind of made the decision, and it's the worst time to start, that I'm going to start eating a little healthier.
Okay.
So nothing major. I'm not going to like freak out or anything. 100% true story. So today I go to, this morning, instead of having cereal, I end up eating some over easy eggs,
Okay.
which I've been making a lot more of. My wife loves them. I love them. I put them in the cast iron, cook them up. Yummy, yummy. Salt and pepper. Yummy. I forego the toast. My wife puts them on a English muffin. Today at lunch, I have leftovers, but I forgot them. So I'm like, ugh, I got to go out. All right,
Fiddlesticks.
I'm going to go to Subway. I know it's not the greatest thing, but slow process. What would normally be the greatest day of the week, when I get to the cash register and
Double Stamp Tuesday?
No.
Yeah, no double stamps?
Close.
Because that's what it used to be.
Double cookies.
No, perfect for your new agenda.
Yes, 100%. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to whatever. And she's like, well, actually, if you get cookies, we'll give you double. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, we're doing the thing. And
if I buy 2 dozen, you're going to give me 4.
So I'm like, how do I pass that up?
You don't?
No, so I got 2 cookies and they gave me 4. So then, because that's usually what I get, is I get 2 cookies, whatever, with my 6-inch sub.
So you didn't think about getting 1?
No! How could you think about getting 1?
Okay.
Subway cookies are delicious. So I felt so guilty because literally earlier this week, I'm like, I'm going to do a little bit better. I'm going to drink less soda. I'm going to try to eat less, sugar cereal, blah, blah, blah. And at some point, hopefully in the next week or so, I'm going to start working out again because we had a whole issue with our YMCA membership. It was supposed to be renewed and it didn't. And so now it's all taken care of. Awesome. Because I went in there and I went to register and they're like, we can't find you. I'm like, oh, I'm part of the other YMCA from when we moved a year ago, but the membership went, we basically renewed right before we moved. So it was like they always had to look us up at the other YMCA. Well, at some point, like a couple months ago, it expired and they didn't alert me for a while. I was going in for free for a bit, and then I just kind of stopped going. So now it's renewed, and I'm like, oh, cool, back on track. And then Subway goes and wrecks me with their.
Oh my gosh! Whatever will you do with 2 extra cookies in your diet?
I ate them. I ate 4.
You will be okay.
I literally
I
ate 4 of those cookies in the afternoon. They sat there, and I had one, and I do some work. Half hour.
I deserve.
Half hour later, I deserve another one. I ate it, and there's 2 of them, and I'm thinking like,
no, you're not just looking at me, cookies.
No, you're not. I'm not gonna let you sit overnight.
No, we could never
No, they've got to go before I leave.
Eat fresh. Subway says.
Could I give them to somebody else in the office? I
Not really.
could, but who wants a cookie?
Yeah.
I have to eat those cookies. So I'm blaming Subway for my falling off the wagon today.
Yes, not at all your fault.
Not at all my fault. That's 100% not my fault. The fact that they offered me free double cookies.
Back in the day when they just used to offer double stamps on Tuesday.
I know.
Those were the
But I did
days.
go with the vitamin water over the soda.
Oh,
so
wow.
That made up for most of it.
Yep.
Because again, it's little steps, Terry. You can't make huge changes right away. You got to take baby steps.
Yeah.
And
That's
baby steps were double cookies.
that all checks out for me. Well, I had the privilege and honor to join the Shicks to again head down to Workforce Brewing. And the abridged version of this story is that it is a taproom brewery, down in the Joliet, Plainfield, Illinois area. And they hosted, again, 25 vendors were able to come in. This was all prearranged. And it was really, they call it a disc swap. They don't really call it a fly mart. It's a disc swap, holiday disc swap. Mm-hmm. And it really, really, more so than most places where you'd go and you'd just see a ton of vendors with a lot of new merchandise, it does cater to the Johnny V's of the world, that if you said, hey, I'd like to grab 5 of my bins of either used stuff or semi-used stuff or semi-collectible or stuff that's beat to death that I'm never going to throw again, you could say, hey, I'm going to bring these 5 bins. I'll be on one of the tables, which is very modestly priced. And that's how you have such a huge diversity in terms of all the people that were there. So these aren't all just disc golf vendors. I and a couple others are your larger, I don't want to call larger scale, but your more regular brand new disc golf vendor. Most of the people there are truly pulling discs out of their closet out of the back of their car, whatever, and creating this disc swapping, buying, selling environment. And it's just like last year, was awesome. You're in the back of a brewery to start. They have free door prizes, so everybody that walks in automatically gets one raffle ticket. And they were giving away door prizes throughout. And it was just there's a couple food carts or trucks outside. Just a great atmosphere, great environment. Hats off again to the crew down there. I know Leo and Thor and those guys kind of head that up. It was a huge success last year from being there and experiencing it. It was just a lot of fun. And then this year was very much the same. So I just want to say it was awesome. So thanks for having all of us. It was a lot of fun. No, I didn't bring too many crazy goodies. I brought a few. But yeah, people are there looking for good deals. A lot of used discs, honestly, going back and forth. I, this year, managed to keep my purchases to just two discs. Now I'm trying to remember what the second one was. But the first one was an Ontario Rock. I know. Shocker. I don't remember what the second one was now. But I kept, it was $10. I don't know what it was. Oh, it was a Piranha. I got myself a new Piranha. Everybody's looking for a new Piranha from 2002 or whenever they were out. So I got myself a couple of discs.
Why did you get a Piranha?
I truly feel as if I go through
so many
if
Piranhas.
I went through all of my Frisbee disc golf collection, I might only have one, maybe two Piranhas, if even.
Which are probably one or two too many, but sure.
Well, yeah, clearly I'm not using them to throw. This was in good condition, and it's just a really unique disc that's not in production, and I felt like I needed one.
Okay.
So
I'm not going to judge
the other big component to this weekend, besides offering up a bunch of boxes, which I was able to bring to people, is it was right around this time last week, right, that I had picked up 200 disc bins. And those were a smashing hit because they are such a pain to deliver to anyone. And apparently no one else in the country has them in stock. Well, Disc Golf Guy does. So I brought down, I think it was all said and done, like 14 or 16 of the disc bins. And if you know what I'm talking about, it's the gray ones that a lot of your big time vendors use because they're the most durable industry standard disc bins to use. And when people see them, they're like, they're great to have. So, yeah, it was great having them.
Someone asked if you're making a sea creature only bag, and I'm thinking you'd fill that with dragons.
Yep.
Piranhas, hydras.
Oh, the hydra, another very popular Innova mold. That's
yes.
A bullfrog. That's not really sea.
That's not really sea. I mean, it's amphibious. So it's not really a sea creature, but
no.
A whale.
Oh yeah, the whale again, another popular one of theirs.
Yeah. So basically, if Innova comes out with a disc and names it after something that lives in the ocean or sea creature, just ignore it.
It seems that way.
Like that's an afterthought.
Yeah,
and the Piranha used to be more popular.
Not really.
A little bit back in the day.
I don't know.
It was never super
ever
popular.
That popular. Not popular enough for them to still be making it.
Clearly.
I mean, the sharks still exist.
True, the shark. A barracuda.
Yeah, nope. Nobody's throwing those.
Mm.
Yeah, not so much. So
okay,
yeah.
So really, the shark is the popular.
Well, the problem is if you buy then DGA products, most of those those natural disasters will either kill or wipe out whatever you have going on. They have the breaker and stuff.
Yeah, the tsunami,
rift,
typhoon.
I think typhoon was described.
I know, Cyclone 2.
They're all about those natural disasters.
They are.
Yes, an entire sea creature bag. All right. What I had another story. Oh yeah. I went to the mall.
You did because you're a big fan of the mall. You like to just walk around. You're a mall walker, aren't you? You're sitting there with your weights and your sweats
and your
silver
sneakers.
And silver. You're speed walking through the mall.
That's what I'm doing. No, last Wednesday, so a day after our last podcast, there was a book signing by the disc golfer turned MMA professional, Ben Askren. And of course, many of you know Ben Askren from the Funky Farms and hosting the Celebrity Pro-Am for the last 2 years. Well, he has written a book. I think it's called Funky.
It's called Funky.
And they had a book signing at a local Barnes and Noble for kids. That's where books are sometimes used to be sold. Still are, I guess. So one of the larger malls in the Milwaukee area that still exists has a Barnes and Noble, and that's where Funky Ben Askren was. Of course, well, maybe not. Of course, I know him on a personal level, so it was great to chit chat and catch up with him for a few minutes. And I ultimately purchased a couple of his books. I started reading the first one. It's different than the second now. I started reading it, and then of course I got sidetracked, and I have not been able to. I thought the segues to today, though.
I'm just gonna go with an audiobook if I do it.
I thought I would have maybe some time to read. Well, having some of this jury duty situation today, whether it was waiting or whatever.
How long were you in there for jury duty?
A couple hours.
Okay, so an okay amount of time.
But there was no jurying about it. You're brought in. This is Waukesha County. You're brought in, and they had a pool of like 126 people today that had to show up.
Similar to what Milwaukee does.
And then there was to be 4 different. I think they said it was going to be 4 or 5 different cases that were to go to trial. They said one should last 1 day, and you're out at the end of the day. One should last 2 days, and the other one or two should last 3 days. So either, no matter how you cut it, at worst, you were going to be here today through Thursday. One judge ended up coming in, addressing us all with his leather cowboy hat or whatever. He was a real, I'll just say, I thought he was an ass. He was a really pompous, arrogant ass, in my opinion. Okay. Just the way he addressed us all. I just thought I did not like his demeanor. He kind of gave us a rundown of things that could happen. A little while later, another judge comes in. These judges don't
have better things to do.
I know. Well, I mean, they come in and thank you. And
in Milwaukee, they have like an assistant that comes in and does that.
And there's some people that have done all of this stuff as well. But then these judges, I think it honestly is partially to feed their ego. I really do. The way that they both ultimately addressed us. And he went on and on and on. And he's like, well, actually, my case that I was supposed to have today that was supposed to happen isn't going to happen. I'd like to tell you all about it, but I really can't. But I'd like to, but I can't.
Okay.
Okay, get lost. Well, a little while after that, eventually, one of the assistants come back and they say, hey, the people that were supposed to be in this guy's courtroom today, well, that case it didn't get dismissed. It was plea bargained out. And therefore, we're not going to have a jury. So I'm going to read off 25 names. If your name is called off, you're done.
Wow.
15 names in.
Big old T-Bear.
I was called off, and I was out of there.
Don't they know you host a podcast?
Yeah. So at like 9 or 10 in the morning, they're thinking, man, you better get ready for Smashbox tonight.
No, I mean, don't they know you host a podcast? You should be on a jury.
Oh, that's true. Because I would have been talking all about it tonight.
Yeah. Give us a story to talk about.
Yeah. Somebody did something naughty, probably. Maybe.
Yeah. It's been a few years since I was called in for Milwaukee County jury duty. So similar. It was a giant room, probably about 200, 250 of us. I sat there for 8 hours before they eventually just dismissed us and said, all right, don't bother coming back. They called some people in, but they didn't. I don't even think at the time they knew if they would have a trial that needed a jury particularly. So you just sat there and waited.
Oh yeah. All 4 of the ones that were supposed to be part of today, all were then, going to need a jury. And then, of course, you could still have gotten eliminated within that pool and everything else. But, nope, didn't even need to find out. And you're clear for 4 years.
Fun stuff.
That's how it rolls. Somebody said, want to see the poor person who has to ask Terry what he does for a living.
Where do I start?
Yeah.
Wait, you do what? You travel? No, you host a podcast and you travel. And wait, you sell... What do you sell? Discs? Okay.
Cardboard bins? Wait, plastic bins? Wait, bags that these discs go into these into a cardboard box and then eventually get put into a plastic bin? What the hell are you talking about? No, a story I don't even think I told you from last week. Last week's podcast.
Wow.
Almost exactly 7 days ago. I left here last week.
You did? Late, actually.
Yeah, it was very late.
Because we sat and chatted afterwards, and I usually upload the podcast. It was like 2:30 in the morning when you left.
2:30 when I left. Get in the car, leave your little area, drive down the block. Very foggy out. Like insanely foggy out last night. Or
that was the
Tuesday.
first thing you said when you walked outside my house. You're like, whoa, foggy.
Like to the point where you literally couldn't see a block away. Your visibility was almost none. Drive down the street, which is one of the main roads here.
Not well lit.
Not well lit.
My particular street does not.
Oh yeah, your street's not well lit.
Almost
and then I drove onto a slightly more well lit street. The main
Brown
Deer.
Deer.
Yeah, Brown Deer Road. Driving down, go past a cop. You ain't got nothing on me, bro. I'm sober. It's 2:30 in the morning. Haven't had a thing to drink.
Yeah.
Keep driving and get to the main intersection. What Green Bay Road is that? Yep. And hey, there's a cop behind me with its lights on.
Port Washington Road, probably.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, Port Washington. Lights on. Like, I haven't done anything. I drove by you at 30 miles per hour.
That might be the best feeling when you're like,
for sure.
But then you start thinking and questioning, oh, wait, are my license plates out of, do I have a tail light out? Do I have, and I will say, my neighborhood, kind of particular, especially if you
uppity a-holes.
I live in an uppity a-hole area.
Wait, I better watch what I say. There's a reason for that. So, ultimately turn and pull over, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm good.
Sure you are.
I am all good. Officer eventually, because of course it feels like it's forever, right? Officer eventually comes back, touches the back of your car as they do, and then I roll down the window. I'm like, yeah, hi.
Yeah.
Like, it appears that your taillights are out.
Oh.
Like, oh no,
And
that's not good.
Your taillights are out.
Yeah, and I said, oh, no, they're not. Nope. I didn't have the auto lights flipped the night before. I believe I pulled into my place and I turned off the lights because I was in my car a little longer and I didn't want the light shining.
You didn't even have the headlights on
So the
either?
Headlights weren't on.
Oh, so you just had like the fog lamps on?
No, there was...
Oh, nothing? You were just driving in the dark?
Yes.
So
it's completely foggy out.
Sorry, sir.
It's 2:30.
Your tail lights are out, but not mention that you were driving in the middle of the night with no headlights?
No, who needs those?
Okay.
And so... I give him some lame excuse about the lights not being on, this and that, and he's like, "Oh, okay." And then, of course, and so all of a sudden they were on. I'm like, "Yeah, check, they're all on. It's a newer car, they're not burned out. It's good." And where are you coming from? How much you had to drink tonight?
Johnny V's house, and he's like, "Oh, Johnny V, yeah." No.
How much you had to drink tonight? I said nothing.
I've met one or two of the cops. They're nice.
Nothing. I haven't had anything to drink. Absolutely nothing. Oh, what are you doing then? Well, just heading home. My friends. We do a podcast. It's like, oh, it's pretty late for that. What's the podcast about?
Did he ask that really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I said, oh, it's. I usually lead with frisbee golf. I like disc golf, frisbee golf stuff. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I've played that. My buddy's really into that. He plays that like a lot. We used to play together a lot, but now he plays all the time. I'm like, oh, really? What's your buddy's name? He's like, oh, so and so. Like, oh, okay. Like, does he play like tournaments? He's like, yeah, he's really good. He's into it.
He's really good. Yeah, that's what everyone says, and you find out like, oh, that dude won like an AM3 event like 3 years ago.
So I then said, I don't remember what I said, but he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna, anything on your license? Oh, I have to pull up my insurance, which is all good, all checks out. I'm legit, bro. My papers are legit, and then he comes back and I pull up my Instagram. I said, is this your buddy? He goes, yeah, such and such. I go, yeah, he follows me on Instagram.
Wow. You like...
I mean, he does.
You big time the dude. You big time the cop.
He's like, yeah, that's my buddy. And then I was like, okay, cool. Because I recognize the initials, which I just happened to see like a couple days earlier. I don't follow him. I don't know him. He's local to the Milwaukee area. And so JK, if you're listening, how you doing?
All right.
I'm glad your buddy didn't give me a ticket of any kind.
Wow.
But yeah, so this all went down exactly a week ago. And
So if
again,
you-
partially due to the fog, it was the
Yeah.
fact like you couldn't see anything no matter what. Lights weren't helping us
Sure.
at that point as you're driving down the main street that's already low lit or somewhat lit. Me having lights on was
That
not-
is one step below. Do you know who I am? Like, it's not quite the arrogance of like, do you know who I am, officer? But that's not, do you know who I am? That's your friends know who I am.
Yeah. Better get your boy. Come get your boy.
Your boy knows. So listen, officer, you can give me a ticket, but I'm going to make a post and your friends are going to see you gave me a ticket.
Yeah, and he's not winning any of my giveaways either. Let me promise you that. None of my giveaways.
Oh my gosh, Miller. Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny. I never told you that story.
No,
But yeah,
you
that
didn't.
Was last week as I left here. That's exactly how it went down. And yeah, pretty funny.
That is pretty funny. I had someone stop in for my daughter's birthday. As we said, we had a bunch of kids over, probably 8 or 9 kids, and one of the moms came in, and I was wearing the disc golf shirt. It was one of the old ones that has disc golf in sign language.
That says I support single moms, and it was the mom dancing on the disc golf pole.
No, that one I
That's a big shirt of
saved
yours.
for special occasions.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Yes.
That parent teacher conferences.
Yes,
No, it says disc golf in sign language,
Mm.
and it has the letters written out. And one of the moms sits down. She was like, "Oh, do you play disc golf?" Like, "Oh yeah, I'm." And again, similar. I kind of play it down a little bit. I'm like, "Yeah, I used to play a lot."
Do you
more.
know my friend Terry? He's the disc.
And I was like, "Oh no, I used to play a lot more. Now I kind of just do media stuff." She's like, "Oh wow, yeah, my husband is really into disc golf.
He's really good too, probably.
Him and his buddies play, and they're pretty good." I'm like, "Oh yeah." And she's like, "Every year we go up north." And I was like, "Where do you go?" She's like, "Sandy Point. Do you know it?" I'm like, and at that point I'm like, "I know Mike and Michelle really well. They're friends of mine. I'm in a fantasy football league with Mike."
You name dropping.
I totally name dropped, and I was like, and she was like, "Oh my god, really?" And at one point, the kids were all playing down here in the basement. I have a little area in the corner that has a few trophies and collectibles, whatnot. And so she comes down and she's like looking at it. She's all stuff like, she's like, "Oh, you really do play?" I'm like, I kind of said, I'm like, a lot of people know me in the community. I'm like, if your buddy follows disc golf professionally at all or anything like that, he probably knows me or my podcast or anything like that. And she's like, "Oh wow, yeah." She's like, "My husband plays and my buddy plays and this and that, and we every year we go up to Sandy Point and this and that. And we play a bunch of rounds together." And at that point I'm like, "Well, what house do you stay in?" I'm like, I usually stay in the big house." She's like, "Yeah, I stay in the big house too, off a hole 26. And I was like, "Whoa, she knows. All right, so she's a true player." And we sat and chatted about that for a little while. So I thought that was kind of funny that she was familiar with the thing that we do. She did come down and see and take a look at all the discs. She walked in here and she goes, "Oh geez, yeah, you've got a lot of discs." And I'm like, "I do. I have a lot of discs." I'm like, "I don't get to touch as many of them as I like to, but I do have a lot of discs."
And if you too would like to check out sandypoint.com, head on over to sandypt.com and book yourself a vacation of a lifetime.
Ding.
Anyway.
So we can invoice them for that now, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Actually,
All
I think they might be down here at the Bucks game. Mike
They
and
are.
Michelle
They're
Cousins.
the Bucks are playing the
Golden State?
Warriors, so
Okay.
they're down here.
Yes, down here in the Milwaukee area, taking in the game. All right, Johnny, you have a giveaway. You have some stuff.
Oh,
that
geez,
you
I
could-
do not have that prepped at all.
Okay, well, why don't you start
Give
working
me
on
about
that?
give me about 2 minutes to get that
Uh,
prepped up, Terry Miller.
Comment.
But
Did I? Okay, I think I plugged it earlier in the regular show. Plug it again. Flex start New Year's Eve. Chaining in the New Year. That's taking place in the northern Illinois, southeastern Wisconsin area, general area. Please come check it out. Registration is open for it. Secure your spot. And come play in a disc golf tournament at the end of the year. Also, our friends Sean and Sheila Callahan over at Delwood are doing a flex start on New Year's Eve as well down at the Canyons. They're doing that on I think that's Saturday on New Year's Eve, and then on New Year's Day doing another flex start. So get your PDGA membership renewed. Some of you are waiting on it because you're fired up about the policy, and some of you now want a refund. Whatever the case might be, wherever you fall on the spectrum for or against the policies, Either way, if you are a member of the PDGA, then you're saving yourself a few bucks if you're playing in an event. So that's happening down at Delwood. All right, let's see if there's anything on here. Double D's. Yes. That's a great reminder. As I told him to remind me. Let me find. I should have asked him.
I'm ready for the giveaway whenever you are, Terry. So once you get through this thought,
I want to give the appropriate shout out for this. There was a new record set this just a few days ago, and I want to find the exact details so I announce it correctly. And we missed it last week's show, so here you go. An official new world record held on December 3rd, 2022, 27 degrees at the high school in Evansville, Wisconsin.
Wow.
A throw pink mamba was thrown 187 feet and 3 inches.
I can do that.
I don't know if you could, but this breaks the under 9
I can't be
world
under 9,
record by a couple of inches.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
So, congratulations, Genevieve Davis. PDGA 139148 has set a new world record. Edged it out by a few inches, whether it's a few inches or a few feet, doesn't matter. A brand new world record
awesome.
for her. So,
congratulations,
Genevieve
honestly.
Davis, congratulations.
Love to see it.
Yeah. I think back to constantly seeing, and these were it felt like weekly, although they were yearly updates that was done by David Wiggins, his dad, constantly year after year as David Wiggins at every new age group on the men's side or the boys' side, year after year after year was constantly breaking new world's records to, of course, go on to have all the titles that he does. So Genevieve, congratulations at this age, and maybe in a year we'll be talking about a new world record that you break next year. We didn't even really touch on it, so I will quickly gloss into it, which was, I think there was an A tier that took place down in Florida.
Yeah, Paul Macbeth.
What? No, don't spoil it.
I'm going to spoil it, bro. Paul Macbeth now got over $100,000 in tournament winnings.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good for him.
That's not spoiling whether he won or not.
Oh, that's true.
It's just saying that he got over 100,000. I'm assuming he won because he's Paul Macbeth.
Oh, he might have gotten lucky. Why am I not finding things
I know,
like I thought I was? Here we go.
You're not.
I will quickly jump onto it. The Tri-Fly Disc Golf presents the 10th annual South Florida Open, sponsored by Dynamic Discs.
And Ace Run filmed FPO for this.
Yes, they did. Paul Macbeth came out on top and won $1,151, as you said, eclipsing $100,000 now for the year. Double G in second, Thomas Gilbert in third, Randon Latta, Tony Moe, Reese, Jonathan Borzik, and Adam Durham all finished in a tie for fourth. And on the FPO side, none other than it was her birthday last week, and she got 100 wins, Sarah Hokum. So congratulations, Sarah Hokum, edging out Jordan Lins, who had, I believe, the hot second round. One of the Lins twins, we often reference, but edged her out. So Sarah Hokum is your champion. Jordan taking second. Ellen Wid Boom Shakalaka taking third, tying with Jordan's twin sister, Morgan Lins, for third place. So congratulations to them.
Daniel says, I'm surprised Macbeth is still playing tournaments late in the year. Well, you would know that.
He needs the money.
If you listen to our podcast with Macbeth earlier. No, he says that he wants to just stay more competitive throughout the year and not
kind of gives him more of a practicing routine and regimen.
Correct. So that's why
he needs the money.
Playing. Yeah, he's
so broke.
Well, yeah, because he went to Disney.
That's true.
So clearly he took this money and went to Disney. Congratulations, Hannah. You got to go to Disney again.
Ace Run saying that coverage is coming soon. If you're an Ace Run patron, you have access to it already.
Oh,
We'll give you that plug. We appreciate
Smart
that.
Move, Ace Run.
And then Ace Run also goes on to say that Hokum pulled double duty, and she also did the commentary. She can do it all. So, yeah, congratulations to her.
Will Macbeth beat Climo in world titles, though? No, I don't think so. He'll beat him in majors, but I don't think he'll get world titles.
I think that is unlikely at this point.
As much fun, as exciting as I think it could be if he did get that way. He's at 6 right now, and he would have to get to 12. That means he's got to get 6 more, probably in the next, I would say, 8 years.
4 years.
Wow. Well, I would say 8 to 9 years while he's kind of still in close to his prime. Not that he couldn't win it after that, but it's going to get harder and harder the older and older he gets. I just don't think he's going to hit him and get him for world titles, but I do think he'll get him definitely in majors overall. So take that for what you will.
Well, Sue says, I don't know. He's one determined guy, and
I trust me. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility.
I just don't think it's going to happen.
I would not put money on those
Bookmark
odds.
it, flag it, check the tape.
Yeah.
Mark the tape.
So every year, Paul Macbeth can pull this up and be like, Johnny didn't believe in me.
Yeah.
I will crush his soul and win every year. You'll find a way to put a chip on his soul.
Speaking of winning, Johnny, we've got a winner coming at you here in just a few moments. To be eligible to win part of our sweet action, I'm going to be sending out and getting up to speed here a little bit. Last week, Chris Stillwell was our winner. He's going to be getting this disc member box that's going to get shipped out to him. We've got other goodies that are coming for our other winners, but right now we're going to pull from our Patreon supporters, and of course you can do so by going out to patreon.com/SmashboxTV, and if you're contributing to us at any dollar figure, no matter what, $2, $1, $20 holla, whatever, if you're contributing to us in any capacity, that makes you eligible for our weekly giveaways. Johnny, we're going to generate some numbers.
We're going to generate a number, Terry.
All right. Well, there was I still have Manabu up. So he took second once this year, so you're going to pull the second number, and that will be corresponding to our nifty spreadsheet. How did you sort them tonight, Johnny?
I just sorted them by first name.
Least amount of wins.
No, I don't think so. Unfortunately, Patreon doesn't show us the number of wins they have.
Oh.
So, all right, so our second number, our very first number we generate is 127. Our second number, we have 150. Yeah, I'm sorry. We have 154 people eligible. This is a 27. Our second number is 151.
Ooh.
So we're going towards the end. So
a first name. So is it going to be a William? A Walter?
It might be.
A Wiki Waiwaki?
Wiki Waiwaki? 151 is a Will.
Okay. Yeah.
Will Marsh.
Hell yeah.
Congratulations, Will Marsh. Oh, funny thing is, wow, he's a very new patron.
Well, he's going to be like, damn, I'm out. I got my money's worth.
I
got over on you guys. I've only been around for a few weeks.
November 18th is when he signed up. Congratulations, Will. Well, geez. Like, dude, just shows up and wins?
All I do is win.
William Reed feels, or Zach Webb, or Webb Warren. These guys.
Yeah, well, Webb Warren's won before.
I know he has. So
Webb, you're always a winner in my book.
They're all winners in my book because they give us money.
So we have to say that.
They're my favorite people.
Legally obligated.
It's part of the Patreon terms of service. Congratulations, Will Marsh. You will. We'll get that to you. I'll send your information to Terry. He'll reach out and get information from you. But thank you for being a Patreon supporter. Without you guys, honestly, this is a lot more difficult and a lot more expensive.
Heck yeah. I think with that, we can close things out. I'm going to go try and get pulled over. Tonight, though, I'm going to get hammered.
No, Terry. First of all, it's a bad idea.
Oh, okay.
Second of all, you should leave. But if you see the cop in the same spot, just pull up next to him. Just slow down, roll down your window. How you doing, buddy?
Bro, I got your shout out.
No. You got a shout out on our podcast.
He didn't give me. I'm going to get him in trouble. He didn't give me a written warning, so I do not recall his name. No warnings at any point.
No, you did the "Do you know who I am?" and he fell for it. You big timed the dude.
He was already letting me go.
I'm going to have to now. Next time I see a cop here in my little city, I'm going to have to ask him. I'm like, Did you pull over my friend?
That'd be
Do you know
like,
who he
"Do you
is?"
know-" Yeah. That's
God.
probably the way to go. for
Son
sure.
of a.
I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. We had a large crowd a little bit earlier. Of course, you guys got smarter and left. You're still here. I don't know what you're doing.
We love you.
No, but we do appreciate you guys sticking around here throughout the night, including the after show. Yeah, it's holiday season, and we're rolling into Christmas time and or whatever you may celebrate. And we thank you guys for joining us week in and week out. We are truly grateful for you guys to trust us with a little bit of hopefully sincerity, but also a little bit of fun and joyous laughter and silliness and whatever else and everything truly in between. And hopefully we provide some of that insight and or frank discussion that you may or may not always agree with, but we hope to provide you a little bit of value as we sometimes dance through some of these delicate topics week in and week out. So thank you sincerely for joining us.
And if you've ever seen
whenever
us
you do.
dance, you know that's difficult.
Yeah, we there's not a lot of delicacy there, but we make up for it in other ways. We're going to close it out. This has been podcast 433. For Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller Terry Miller the next week. Wow. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. And we'll see you next week if I'm not pulled over for being drunk in front of that cop. We'll see you then.